start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you and welcome everybody. We'll proceed to item 3 on the agenda, which is to acknowledge receipt of review comments and consideration requests which have come in writing since the last meeting. Mr. Ron, did you want to comment on that? I know we have quite a few, actually.
We've actually had quite a few. In our packet here, we've got all but one, number 77. I don't know what happened to number 77, but they go from 76 through 85, I think that was. Yeah, 85. So we had, 10? Yes.
That's right, and just for introduction purposes, many of them are from the town clerk, and she has already presented them, a preliminary presentation, a few meetings ago, and then we had, we should probably just briefly mention, Donna, one of them was yours, I believe?
Yes.
Did you want to briefly comment on that?
Sure. I'm just going to find it.
77 may already be
Is it?
packaged.
What am I,
It's right there.
76?
Or 77.
No, that's...
Oh, sorry. I was looking at something else.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
76.
All right. Town council policy, boards, committees, and commissions. Language to ensure that the charter shall only list boards, committees, and commissions that are elected bodies governed by state and federal law, or any body with force of law. All other entities shall come under the governance of the town council policy, boards, committees, and commissions. This policy governs the appointment and oversight of town boards, commissions, and committees. The Budget Committee, School Committee, and Charter Review Commission are not governed by this policy, as they are independently elected bodies, and meetings with them are required by other authority. Reason for consideration: this will allow more flexibility for the town council to add or subtract boards, committees, and commissions and verbiage without having to wait for an election to amend the changes in the charter by ballot. Effective change: the town council will be able to make amendments to the town council policy, boards, committees, and commissions by majority vote at a council meeting. This will be more efficient than the present system of waiting for an election to post the changes to the charter. All the amended changes to the town council policy, boards, committees, and commissions document shall be required to be updated and posted online within 5 business days. This comes under Article 10, Boards and Commissions, and includes any and all sections of the charter that pertain to this subject.
Great, thank you, Donna. And
Yeah.
that was number 76.
Six.
And so that'll be triaged. We also have number 77 from the Economic Development Commission acting as a body, which has, we have assigned as proposal number 77. They are asking for wording such that all members will be registered voters and current residents of the town, appointed by the council, and they would like to include responsibilities and duties consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. I think we've had some similar subjects, proposals on that as well, so I imagine we'll triage those. And as I stated, numbers 78 through 85 are all from the town clerk. Those have all been introduced a few meetings ago, but these are now the forms, and she's done a great job of getting them in by our December 31st deadline. Secretaries, have I missed any other proposals that have come in, or can we move on?
Mr. Chairman, there's a proposal here from Nancy Mello, which is unnumbered.
Yeah, they're not numbered yet.
77.
Yeah, we're not
You just
sure
read
what,
77.
I think you came through twice, maybe? Nope. Renee, 77 is Renee Jones.
This is hiring of seasonal or temporary help.
That's Renee Jones.
That's Renee Jones?
No, wait, I'm sorry. I got that wrong.
No, it's,
I got that wrong. I totally got that wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my copy says Nancy Mello.
It's the
What's the
recall
date of it?
petition.
I've got 78.
I think
You know, I noticed online that a bunch of Nancy Mellos seem to have the wrong short title for proposal.
Yeah.
So we need to be a little careful using that to distinguish immediately what they are. But maybe we should just run through the numbering. Can we do that, Mr. Chairman? Let's take a minute and do that, or?
Sure, Richard, let's just let Richard keep her the role while you two. So, I think what happened with Nancy's is one or two came in earlier than the rest, so there may be a double entry, but we'll sort that out.
Okay.
We've received tonight, number 76. Is that accurate?
Right, that's Tom's.
Okay. And then we've received number 77 from Renee Jones.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Well, it's technically from the EDC.
You're right, technically from the Economic Development Commission, I stand corrected. Okay. And then that was 76. So 77. So now I have a package here that I think the points I just found, which just starts with 78.
Correct.
Okay. And there's a staple through these, agreed?
Yes.
And it looks like 78's in there, 79's in there, 80's in there, 81 is in there, 82 is in there, 83 is in there, 84 is in there, and 85 appears to be in there. So that gets us up to 85. Now,
So what is,
there's this other document here from Nancy Mello which says,
It's a repeat of 81.
general qualification for members of boards and commissions. And I think it is a repeat, but I'm not sure. I'm going to flip now to see.
of 81?
Well, the municipal court clerk is 81, and the other one is...
It looks like it is, it's dated November 28th, which this one is too. And,
They use both sides, and so it kind of, some of the stuff went on comment.
but it
because
is
was-
not, the comment section is different than 81.
Oh, yeah, no, 81 is municipal court clerk, and
Yeah.
then this one is just as
All right,
recall
we're gonna-
petition.
Yeah, it looks like it's unique.
It looks like it's separate.
I don't think that there's extra. I think everything is
Yeah.
within the
Oh, no,
78 or
it's,
80.
you
Well, I
know
like-
what it is? It's a duplicate of the next one, it's a duplicate of 82. Yeah,
Okay, yep. It is.
yeah, it's a duplicate of 82.
Oh, yeah.
82.
Really?
Yep.
Nope.
I don't think so.
Yes, it is.
Well, the short subjects, which one are we talking about? When you say "it," what is the subject? What is the
loose
subject?
one.
Is there one or two loose ones here? first of all?
They're both titled recall petition.
Okay,
I'm not seeing that.
One dated November 28th.
Yeah.
That's loose.
Right.
If you look at, in her packet, if you look at number 82, I believe.
It's dated
it's the same
November
as this
28th.
one.
Well, I have another loose one.
No.
Oh, you have another
Totally.
one?
Yeah, which is titled
Can
Hiring
I,
of
guys, guys.
Oh.
I'm not agreeing with Nancy
I'm gonna say
Driggs on
again,
that.
You already have everything from 77, I'm sorry, 78 through 85. We will double check.
We may have 86 here.
I think she
Yeah.
sent something in advance. If it's 86, we'll make sure it comes back up.
Okay,
Because we're,
so we gotta make sure we have, now you read 77, right?
77 was from the Economic Development
Right.
Commission. So,
What's yours called?
and all,
Well, it wasn't in the pack.
all of Nancy's have been presented. So if
Okay.
we find a loose leaf one and it hasn't been presented, we'll
I
make
think
sure
it's right here.
she comes back in.
I think it is 85.
I think it's 78, frankly.
It's going over it, it was kind of.
Yeah, because it's collated back
Yeah,
and
it's
forth.
85. It's the same.
Makes a little
It's the
change.
same.
No, it's 70, it's 78.
And the one,
Oh,
Bill Loeb's had another one from Nancy that was called, the short title was Hiring of Seasonal or
Yep.
Temporary Help. And that one was the same as
Yeah.
85 in the package that we got.
Okay, and I've got one here that's unnumbered.
Yes, we
And
do too.
but that's number 78.
Yes. Is that a recall petition?
No, it says general qualifications for board members, committees, and commissions.
Oh, so these all must have been together and then just got dispersed
Yeah.
amongst all of us.
Yep.
That's what
Yeah,
it
this
is.
the same.
No, this is way online, too. It's not-
Here, I'll throw it at Richard, and you can, I don't know if everyone got that one or not. I seem to be the only person who got that one,
I
but
really think we're,
Get it straight.
I think we're really kind of wasting time here, so.
Okay.
I don't think everybody got this one.
I know
What's
it's
the,
been
what's the
online.
short title?
General qualification for members of
It's
the
number
boards,
78.
committees, or commissions.
It's number 78, right?
78.
Yeah, so we will sort this out.
Oh, yeah, all right,
Okay?
78.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on. All right, this is, it's good. It's good to have serial numbers for this very reason. Open public input session, and I think we can probably combine that with review comments and consideration requests from invited committees and officials. We do have two officials from the Tiverton Town Council Casino Subcommittee, Ms. Carolyn Wyman and Mr. Chris Romline.
Yeah, good.
Is that? Welcome. If you certainly don't have to speak, but if you'd like to sit, make yourself comfortable, we have plenty of time. We have a lot of discussion later on the agenda on casino proposals, but this is really, your time for anything that you'd like to share or any questions. Do you mind if we maybe just do a quick introduction here? I met you both, of course, right before the meeting off Coulter.
Jeff Karen?
Richard Round, please.
Bill Lopes.
Nancy Driggs.
Donna Cook?
And Justin LaCroix.
Well, thanks for inviting us. It was nice. So we spent a couple months going through, and our whole goal there was the host community agreement, which had to do more with public safety.
You pull it close to you, too, if you want.
Yeah. It's because of the video, even though we're so close, we need the mics to
Thank you.
Got it.
pick it up.
So the host community agreement, the main goal there was to deal with public safety, cleanliness, hours of operation, a lot of suggestions, and so we wrapped that up last week. And one of the more interesting things that came out of the whole meeting, I thought, was the town of Lincoln. The administrator came down and basically gave us his opinion of what we should do and had some really great examples, what the town of Lincoln did. And so when he started there, they had no plan. The money just went right to the general fund. And I think they had something like $5 million coming in, and they had no accountability, and it just sort of disappeared into the general budget. And then when he came there, they sort of said, we need a plan, we want to stabilize taxes, was our main goal, not to have taxes go up. And so he set about creating several funds and getting some accountability for the money, and right now, they've been able to hold taxes steady for, I think, 7 years. So if you're looking at doing, it looks like, I've read a little bit here, doing some plans for setting up some policies or procedures, definitely have him come down here and spend a half an hour, because he'll go into the real deep details of it.
Is this Almond?
Yeah, awesome, like, what goes wrong and what can go wrong and how to fix it. And his main goal to us, and he said it, I don't know how many times, make a plan before things start and get everybody to agree to what is going to go on. So, I mean, just tons of really good words of wisdom, and, I mean, he's like a very, a nice person, and he had a lot of good things to say. So again, that's something I would definitely advise you guys, if you're going to do some wording or something like that, to have him come down here. And they have all the details of it. You can actually go to the town of Lincoln and look at all the funds they have and how they've set them up. Some of it because they want to have a cap. I think we're at 3%, they're up to 12%. They ask, why do you do that? Well, he goes, we can borrow a lot cheaper. So if we do ever need to borrow, we don't necessarily need it now. This is all about 10 years from now, right? It's not today, tomorrow. I mean, where's that money going to be? The casino's not going to be there forever. There's going to be a casino in Taunton. We might get 3 or 4 years out of it, and it might go down. It might be really successful. I mean, they figured out they were only going to do 3 to 5 million. They're up to like 11, almost $12 million now. So they're having a run, but who knows? Plainfield, I think it was Plainridge, that failed a little bit. So, Lincoln's doing well, but I mean, we don't know how long it's going to last here. We make it get a few years. I mean, we're guaranteed 10 years. So I would set your sights on what we can do to make the town better in 10 years, some safety, some cushion in case something bad happens, because you might never get another one, you know?
Did they set up some designated accounts?
Yes.
They did.
Yes. And it's a separate group, so they had so they have somebody from the town council, somebody from the budget committee, somebody from the school committee, and it's like a separate thing. And they basically look, what do we need this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road? It's long-term planning. And so the idea is you do your long-term planning, if you put the money aside, I've taken on a couple of old houses, and you know you just gotta start with a roof and go down to the foundation, and you might get to the new fridge or dishwasher eventually, but you know all those things have a fixed cost, and this town's like that. You know, I'm on the rec committee, and we know we gotta replace playgrounds, and we're gonna look for grants and do all that. These are things you could plan for and have half that grant money up front, not have to go hunting for it, kind of things like that. So I think that's the type of thing we should be looking at, or at least listen to him, and then maybe whatever you guys do here, you can use the wording to make it work. But those funds are good, because they're, and it's public knowledge, those are accessible on the internet.
We reviewed a number of models that were suggested to us for the use of gaming revenue, and most of them broke down to having a capital improvement fund, retiring some debt service, and dealing with the police pension, and perhaps OPEB. The property tax, which they're estimating at $1 million or more, will go directly into the general fund. But a number of the models just had different percentages going into the three areas that I mentioned. And the suggestion was that we have a cap on the capital improvement fund, and any money over that goes into the general fund. Were there other? I think infrastructure maintenance was another big area, drainage, paving, that kind of thing.
Can I ask just a background question? I'm sort of interested. I remember when the subcommittee was formed, part of your, I think your mission was to develop a plan to allocate the funds.
No.
Originally, I thought it
No.
was.
Yeah, it was part of the,
I thought it was part of the original.
It was part of the original language, but it was never
Yes,
adopted.
but
Never
some,
adopted.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we were
okay.
pretty much told, get the host community thing figured
Yeah.
out, the safety part of it,
Okay.
and that was it.
So at this point, in terms of, your work is now ended because you have the host
Right.
agreement done.
and we gave
So-
no one recommendation for the division of the revenue.
So the last meeting I was at, I believe, of your committee, I believe Christine Ryan was going to recommend to the town council an advisory board or something be formed to now figure out revenues, or do you know what's happened with that?
No, I
Okay.
think the committee that she was concerned with were knowledgeable, financially based people in the community
Right.
that could take a look at the priorities.
Right.
Because there's the 5-year plan
Yeah.
and the,
So is that what's going to be happening now, is that?
has to go to town council.
Okay, all right. I just didn't know where.
I believe at the meeting on the 11th, all of this casino thing goes back to town council.
Okay.
But they made it very clear that we were just
Yeah, I know, I was, yeah.
a committee to make recommendations, that they would take action on how the revenues were going to be allocated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you both have a lot of information on.
Well, you sat there, we listened to a lot, we
Yeah.
heard a lot,
Yeah.
we both researched a lot. I think everybody that was there looked at, like, with other towns, we looked at stuff that was going on in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New York, so you get a good idea of what's going on. But when the guy from Lincoln came, I can't say enough, when he came and what he was saying, you were like, that's what we want to do. You just looked at him like, you figured it out. He kind of said, we figured it out, but it took us a few years, he didn't say they misappropriated it, but they couldn't account for 5 years and close to $35 million just went into the budget.
Yeah.
I'm sure it got used wisely.
Would it be helpful if we gave you the information that we have on the,
Sure.
yeah?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And these were actually from people in town. Each
Yeah.
one of these was somebody suggesting, here's my wish list. So they're kind of, you have to look at them like you guys would look at it.
And did you get a letter from Denise Surratt, the treasurer?
Yeah. Oh, is it the letter about the debt service issue?
Yes,
Yeah, we got that.
because there was a lot in our discussion with one particular member of our committee, there was a lot of interest in retiring the debt,
Right.
which sounds good, because on one hand, that you would get rid of the interest payments along,
You
know.
can't do it.
But because so much is reimbursed by the state, it would be shooting ourselves in the foot to retire some of this, and there's a penalty for retiring some of it too early. So everything that seemed simple turned much more complex.
Right.
And there's seemed to be no one magic solution. It was a lot of, it's like fitting pieces together of a puzzle to make a decent plan that we can live with for a period of time that will give both immediate relief and long-term tax relief. And I think that's what people were looking for. But,
Thank you, that would be helpful.
and I guess I want to make one comment. We had some discussion about what qualified for capital items, because there is no good definition in the charter as it is right now. And
You should mention that.
I,
We have a draft
looking
going.
through the minutes here,
Kind of look at your stuff. it looks like you got
page
it.
8, why, it's very specific, and I think that will be very helpful, because we went round and round on that, and it depends where you look. There's, the treasurer has one definition that she uses for some of the things, and the administrator had some other definitions, but you couldn't pin it down.
Yeah.
And,
You may want to add open space. I know Lincoln did that. They've been buying a lot of land. They don't have land like Tiverton has, but they've been doing open space buys recently.
yeah,
They just closed on one last week.
Now, what, you can share with us, what were the mechanics of how they tried to stabilize their taxes and make sure that some level of designated funds went to either reduce or stabilize the tax levy?
I think the
Do you
first
recall-
thing you could tell is they did a lot of planning and said,
Yeah.
you know, here's the things we expect we're going to need to spend in the next few years. And then the next thing is to fund that, so you have the money there, so you don't have to go and ask for tax increases or borrow any money. If you don't have to borrow and you don't have to ask for tax increases, your taxes stay flat. So it's anticipating all of those needs.
Now, in our case, would we be thinking along the lines of an FTR proposal? Is that what it would be called, Jeff? I don't know. Where we would say we want to designate X dollars of the gaming revenue for this year's budget to be whatever, some number, and that would then allow the voters to vote on it, and at the same time follow our processes.
That's one thing they don't have, is they don't have an FTR.
I was gonna
So
ask you,
these
what do
guys
they do?
Basically, like, again, they, like I said, they brought in people from the schools, DPW, anybody who knows, like, the school's gonna need a new boiler, they know.
Yeah.
They said, hey, it's gonna cost this much money, we have 5 years to fund it. So they got the people of the town that are invested in those different areas and said, what do we need? And they make a list. and it's a laundry list.
How do they do their budget there? Town meeting, town council, or
They have an FTM.
financial town meeting? Okay.
Yeah, so I think it would be up to, you know, a group like yourselves to suggest, hey, here's what we suggest, you know, the town does,
Mhm.
and this is how it would work.
I-
It's a complex subject.
I think one of the differences between Lincoln and here, at least, is, it's my understanding that there was a significant amount of the $5 million that they were getting had a lot of history and legacy back to the dog track days, or horse track, or whatever that was. And so I can't speak to necessarily, you know, where that went into their tax offset in their budget, but certainly they have their capital fund, and their capital fund, with good planning, has apparently been able to mitigate the need to do other things. But as Chris, right? As Chris said, it held the taxes flat. And I think that probably with a little bit of thought, we could realize here that we could take $3 million and hold the taxes flat for quite some time. The key, though, is I think that people want tax relief. They want to see a tax rate decrease, and I think that's, you know, part of the public debate. But in order to accomplish that goal, obviously the real estate portion of it will achieve some of that, but then it's using a portion of this to offset the tax rate, the tax levy, I should say. And so I think there is a fundamental difference in the paradigm between, and while I'll even reference Lincoln, there's a fundamental difference in the paradigm, because while I have not done a study of Lincoln's tax rate per se, if it has stayed flat, then that says one thing, it stayed flat. So if we follow suit exactly with their model, with the onslaughts that the $5 million was already in their budget on day one, then we can be expecting a tax rate to stay flat. And I'm just not sure, me as one voting member of this commission, and also as a taxpayer in town, I'd be quite happy with that, frankly. So from at least the gain of revenue part. So I think there's a basic difference here of where, I think it's a piece of cake to hold the rate flat for a long time with $3 million. The question is, you know, is the goal to lower the rate by offsetting the tax levy. So that's a key potential difference. And that's a decision I don't think Lincoln ever got to explicitly make so much, because they had the history of the dog track. Thank you.
Was there anybody from the budget committee at your subcommittee meetings, or routinely in attendance?
I think Cecil Leonard came once. Didn't Cecil come
He
once?
did, actually, he was over, I don't think he made any comment.
I thought he,
I don't think so.
There's no formal, certainly no
Yeah.
formal.
no, I think he spoke once. Something.
That's gonna be the big debate, right? Tax relief versus tax decrease. What it comes down to, you know, probably in this town.
I think that's what people were counting on. That was one of the main things. They
It's how
said
you
tax
present it, though.
relief.
It's gonna be how you present it, you know, is it a 10-year plan, or is it something that the tax goes down?
They want the
for
money
3 or 4
now.
years? Yeah, they do, but if you say, hey, your taxes are gonna go up in 2 years, because,
I don't think that's, I can only speak for myself.
yeah,
They want it now,
you know.
yeah.
We have at least 6 proposals. I'm sure more to
That's gonna
come.
be a
so
big debate, yeah,
I
we're
think
So-
gonna
there's,
debate that one here.
Well, the other part of it, and it goes right back to the discussion of the debt, of retiring debt. My fundamental, I wasn't really aware of the document that the treasurer was going to send out. I didn't know she was doing that analysis to say, hey, we just refinanced all our debt, and this is not going to be trivial to retire debt. My problem with it was different, in that my problem with it was, you know, okay, we're going to take, you know, money for 2 or 3 years, and we're going to pay off this bond, and so this money that's coming in, this $3 million that's coming in, is getting consolidated and going to pay off a bond or temporary, but it might be 3 or 4 years later before that bond is paid off. And so, in some cases, some of this debt we have is 18 years old. So if it worked out where we had gone that route, and it was possible, my problem with it doesn't look like it is, even on the merit, even on the simple merits, but if we had gone into a philosophical problem with that route was, that you'd be, analogy, if you were paying down your house mortgage, and so it ended after 22 years instead of 30. Like, people want relief now, and so that's why I think even if that were even technically possible at first blush, there was going to be pushback on that also, because people want relief now. And so I'm just buttressing what Donna said with what would have been my comment had the treasurer's analysis been different.
I think that she worked with the administrator to come up with one scenario that showed 4 different levels of taxation based on the tax rate of last year. And level 4 would have used 1.7 million for debt and pension reductions, and included the casino property tax assessment, and it lowered the tax rate by 9.37%. So in this scenario, the average homeowner would have saved $465 on the annual tax bill. And of course, this was calculated from last year's taxes, and they would have put $857,000 into the capital improvement fund with that. So a mixed kind of bag, but what you're saying is more than flat, you wanted it to decrease, and there are some scenarios here.
Right, and I think that scenario there that you're pointing out, and I thank you for raising that point, the 800,000 number, if you're assuming the 3 million minimum,
Yep.
I mean, let's just assume the minimum, the 800,000 number, I think what you're going to hear, if you can hopefully stick around later tonight, is in some of these documents, the 25% numbers being used, well, 25% of 3 million is 750,000. Agreed? So what's in this document that we're probably going to talk about later is not all that, in the end, in the final analysis, all that different at the bottom line than that scenario. And there's since been another scenario that I saw here, just randomly, which drews 100% of it, the money for relief, no capital fund, and it was like 11 change percent. I think I saw it sitting here.
Prepared a paper that you gave us.
Oh, I prepared it, but I saw one of those type of PowerPoints too from that worksheet. It may have not been through your committee, it might have been through something else, but I saw a version of that where 100% went, and the number was like 11.5% or something like that. But I just wanted to make the point that scenario that you happen to just point out is, from taking a step back, those numbers are not all that different of what these proposals suggest.
Well, there's lots of different ways to cut the pie.
That's great information that you
Yeah, it
shared
is.
with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You guys have a big job in front of you.
Appreciate it. Now,
So you think this Mr. Alman would spend some time with us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would definitely, before you guys vote on anything or come up with any final numbers, I would definitely recommend
Yeah.
listening to them. I know every town's got our own issues, and some people want relief, and some people want flat tax. It's gonna be a combination.
We have also made the suggestion to town council that they have him down to speak, because clearly there were 3 counselors that heard him when he came. And, maybe he could come and everybody could hear him
So you don't have to
rather
come down all
than
the time, yeah.
Yeah, keep calling him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because he's an organized man that is able to articulate this plan that they put in place that has brought stability and
He said-
accountability.
He said Tiverton has a gift. Now, it's how we use
Oh,
it.
yes.
And it's a gift that doesn't last forever. So you have to sort of plan wisely with it, because there's going to be a time when it's not going to be there.
I think one area that is a nomenclature area, I think we're going to have a lot of nomenclature clarifications coming up, from what I can understand. And in some of my conversations recently with the town council, or even in conversations with the councilors, there's been nomenclature differences. And one of the areas is the difference between offsetting the tax levy to lower the taxes versus using the monies to add to staff and personnel or other things in the annual budget. And I think that in a broad stroke, that all gets called operations. So to me, using it for operations is how you lower taxes, by offsetting the levy, not by hiring more people. But to other people in town, using it for operations means, my impression from discussions, using it for operations means hiring more people and just leaving everything else the same. So I think a lot of our issues, just advisement to the commission, is we need to develop our language so we have clarity, so that when we interface with other boards, and we interface, if the gentleman from Lincoln ever did come down, that we make it clear that, we can present to him, well, how do we lower the taxes 9%, Mr. Almond, in that scenario? Like, and we can ask him for his guidance on that, because at the end of the day, the only way I can see to achieve the goal is how it was just pointed out by our committee member here, to offset the levy with some of those items she mentioned. But, if that's going to be called operations, then we're in serious differences. But if that's not considered operations, to me, that's operations. But if it's not considered operations, fine, we've got lots of options. So, just my 2 cents.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anything else,
Thank you.
just give us a call, we'd be happy to come back.
Are you going to stick around, or are you, it's up to you, but we are going to have quite a bit of discussion later, so it's up to you.
And also, Denise and Demetrius and Christine Ryan may appear later because they're at another meeting tonight, so we may bounce around the agenda a little bit, but I can't guarantee, because I don't know how long the meeting will go. So I really do appreciate it. This is very
These.
helpful.
Great,
Thank you.
Good luck, you guys.
I'll take those.
Can I have those?
Yeah, he's the secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good choice. I'm going to get him anyway.
Start at the top, work your way down.
Just really.
Everything's up to Richard's pile.
So Renee, just so you know, I did introduce the item that came from, but if you'd like to have a few minutes to speak to it, or I did accept it for the record.
If you have any questions, that's fine, I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, no problem at all.
Just to explain
Yeah,
what we did.
just to pop back real quick, we're talking about proposal number 77, which I briefly introduced and we acknowledged, but if you just want to take a few minutes again. And again, this was in the Economic Development Commission. It came to us as a body to clarify the membership and the responsibilities, I think, is what we're doing here.
Right, that's all it is.
Renee, do you have a copy of this paper that
No, actually, I just brought this, so. I'm running with my.
Is that part of this?
Changed my whole room and everything else, but, basically, the new Economic Development Commission, because there are 4 new members and I'm a carryover, looked at what was in the charter, and because of the very specific issue that occurred this past year, decided that there needed to be some clarity in the description of who was qualified to be on the commission. So that's why I added registered voters and current residents. That was the only change from what was in the town charter, and that was because we did in fact want to make sure that the people that were on the commission were stakeholders in the town, as opposed to somebody who, I know people will say, well, what if we get businessmen that are from out of town? They are always, what I've answered is that they're always welcome to come and provide information, and we certainly will look towards that, but we felt that the voting members should be stakeholders in the town, so that was the only difference in that particular part. Also, if you looked at the responsibilities and duties in the charter, what we looked at, since we've also been working on the comp plan, is that we tried to line up the responsibilities and duties in the charter with what in fact was being discussed for the comp plan. When I read the charter, it wasn't really clear to me what the duties and responsibilities were for the Economic Development Commission, and certainly as I've talked to other towns, they have a more defined and more vibrant and more active group. So I thought we thought that these sort of more closely aligned with the comp plan, and gave us some input in some of the things that are currently going on in the town, and we felt that it was important that we not be always reactive to what comes in town, but maybe have a better feel of what we need in the town. So these defined our duties more clearly, we thought. So that was basically the thought process that went into it. If you have any questions, we're all new, so.
No, I just wanted to let you know that to make it easier for the town council, what's been going on with the charter is that there are some committees not in the charter, some committees are out in the charter, some are out. Things have changed, but they didn't get in, and even some committees aren't listed because they're in the charter, they have to be approved by the voters. So my proposal is to have it under the town council policy on boards, commissions. It'll be in there, and then if they decide to change something, it is changed quickly and updated quickly so that everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So just so you know.
Yeah, no, I haven't, I mean, our thought process was that,
Yeah.
we just wanted to let you know that we are looking at it, and that was what was going on
Okay.
behind it, and that's why we came up with
Sure.
something, so.
Good.
I've had
That's it in a
several
nutshell.
similar proposals where some have really looked to kind of expand and document responsibilities. We've had some of that from department heads.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we've had push at least, although they haven't been formally submitted, I'm seeing draft language from the town council trying to make it simpler, so I'm not quite sure, but there's definitely, you're not the only one.
Yeah, okay.
But Jeff, did you?
I did have one question. Thank you. So the requirement, the part that you're adding is is it the part you're adding, they be
It's just
registered voters?
Voters and current
But
residents.
what did saving me the trouble of taking my charter out, what did it say before?
Oh, God, it didn't have anything about registered, and it didn't have current residents.
Okay, so that made it possible in that scenario for somebody who had a big stake in the town and was a businessman or whatever to be on this, potentially, on this commission, without being a registered voter and a resident. Okay, so now, the part about I understand the stakeholder aspect, I understand the resident aspect. The part about being a registered voter,
That was just because that's how the town determined your legal residence.
okay. Okay, so that's I didn't know if you, and because we have another one here, I'm just going to, before you walked in, we accepted it tonight. This is from the town clerk,
Okay.
and she wants to relieve that requirement, because she says we lose too many people because they don't want to vote, but they're good people in the town. So the town clerk herself says,
But they still have to be
we
residents."
lose candidates that are residents but choose not to be electors.
Like I said,
So that's why I was just pointing that out.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a different, it's just
but
that
it-
we personally, the Economic Development Commission had an issue this year where there was someone who was not a resident, there was some, and it became a very big issue.
Okay.
With the town.
Perhaps, I'm sorry to interrupt.
It had to do with voting in the town, too.
It had to do with
That was-
voting in
yeah.
the town, it had to do with living in the
Yeah.
town, it had to do with, all kinds of things, so that's
Yeah,
why that
yeah.
was.
Thank you.
But it does come under Section 1011, under general qualifications, which encompasses also this. It does say you have to be an elector of the town.
Okay,
Okay, so,
so,
There might even be, I'm just brainstorming, but maybe there's even a compromise where if
Yeah.
there's there are no applicants, or maybe electors get priority, and then, you know, so
Yeah, I just thought it was something that,
Yeah.
that's great.
because of what we went through, that's why we added it. And as I said, I mean, I'm sure there are businessmen who may be living in town that are, you know, we're a flexible group, and we certainly don't have any problem having people come and speak to us, and picking somebody's brain if they're a business person in town, or let me just explain, if they own a business in town, we'd have no
Right.
problem with that. It's just that we felt, after what we had been through, that we would rather have somebody that was a stakeholder, as we said.
And I've said at a few other meetings, you don't have to be a voting member to still make a contribution. I mean, there's other
Exactly.
ways to.
Exactly. It's certainly not going to
what
kick
we-
anybody out the door.
What we do is, our secretary works with our one of our assistant secretaries, and we try to combine these and triage them, and we'll probably take all of these up at one shot. We're still collecting proposals through the end of the month, and then we'll get down to brass tacks, I guess, in January. So we'll try to give you a heads up.
Yeah, no problem.
But again, thank you to the commission also
Okay.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Jay.
we have more, sorry.
question.
It's going to be more than the casino.
Almost.
Renee, this document, which is the attachment, I believe that's what.
All right, that's what, yeah.
To the proposal request.
Right.
Is that in perfect alignment with your internal organizational documentation?
Yeah. We look at, that's why we're talking about doing it with the comp plan, because that's also being reviewed. So the,
A lot.
the general goals of the comp plan, the policies of the, that's where this came from.
Okay.
The policies of the comp plan, the action items of the comp plan are, that's why we did that first.
Okay.
So this came next.
Renee, there's another proposal out there that says boards and commissions without that don't have the force of law should be essentially defined and created by town council. And the town council would set policy and procedures for each board. Would that be sufficient if it wasn't necessarily in a charter, but the charter would specify to the council, if you want a new board or something, that you need to specify what their responsibilities are, what their duties are, who can join it? Or do you think it has to be in the charter?
Personally, I think if it's a board that the town council wants, it should be in the charter. I'm just feeling that it makes it easier for the people that are even working on the board to have a clear set of guidelines and rules.
Have them in policy.
That's my own personal opinion. If it's something that sort of goes between councils, then there's no perpetuity. You know what I mean? If one council comes in and says, well, we want the EDC to do this, and the next council comes in, we want the EDC to do that, it's like, whoa, you know, you need to sort of have some working rules as it goes along, I think, so that we're not jumping back and forth, but that's my own personal opinion. The boards serve as the town council says, that, you know, I don't have to be on the board either, they can kick me off. But I think it sort of makes sense to have some continuing guidelines that would go beyond each town council, so that we're not sort of flipping back and forth as things go. That's.
But they can still
Yeah, that's a
make
very good
changes.
They can still make changes, but I think, you know, once you have something down on paper, you know, you can go back and say, well, look, this is why we did this, or this is why we did that. I don't know, it just seems to me to have some clarity.
Yeah, and it seems, to your point, it adds stability.
It's just
To the-
stability,
to the
it's,
process,
you know,
yeah.
this is the town constitution, you know, when you think about it. And you can change the constitution, but it should be something that there's some formality to it, so that there's a process to go through it, so that people understand what their duties and responsibilities are. That's where I'm coming from, but that's my opinion, so.
We have one more question?
Yeah, I do have a question. So the current charter has duties and responsibilities 1 to 4.
Right.
And I noticed that these are potentially a little bit different, they're similar. Then there's more of them. Are these, you may have said this a minute ago, are these lifted exactly from the comprehensive plan, these additional ones?
These are from the draft comprehensive plan that we are working on.
So if we were to adopt these, then in effect, we're taking the current comprehensive plan snapshot draft or official, whatever, but we're putting it in the charter. Does the comprehensive, I'm not that familiar with the document, so I'm showing some of my ignorance toward it, but does the comprehensive plan list the powers and duties? Is it replicative of the charter?
The comprehensive plan has 3 categories it has goals, which are the broad overreaching
Yep.
direction that the town wants to take. And I kind of always think of those as the build-out goals, where we want to be in, when there's build-out, when we're finished, that's that. The policies are the way that the town plans on getting there. And then the more specific things are very small, are things like what they call action items. So these are compilation of policies and action
Okay.
items to give us some direction.
I see, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They also have a category called objectives, but those are very discrete. So, I mean, when I was reviewing the comp plan and looking at other towns, what they had, the objectives are by, 2020, one of them was from Barrington, by 2020 we'll have 15 more parking spaces in, the town lot. That's
Pretty.
very specific.
Yeah.
Let's not put that in the charter.
No. But that's how the comp plan works. It sort of gives you a background of your particular area that you're dealing with, and this is economic development. So, and then it says, okay, based on these, what we have now and where we want to go, these are the goals that we feel the town needs. These are the policies we feel that the town can adopt to get us there. And then these are the action items, the more specific steps that will help us get there. That's my
Okay.
understanding, again.
Thank you.
Is it possible to could we just bake that into the description if it's already there, but just say the EDC is subject to the comp plan as one of its many?
Well, that was where I was going, yeah.
Okay. I have to check, because the comp plan might be in the charter in a couple spots, but.
Yeah,
can't
I
remember.
I honestly don't know the answer to
Okay.
that, so.
Thank you.
I'm happy with that.
Good job. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we jumped around a little bit, but I do want to, again, we do have an open public input session. Is there anybody from the public that would like to present any comments or consideration requests or have any other feedback or questions before we move on to the agenda? Okay. So again, that takes us through items 1 through 5. If either of the town councilors from the casino subcommittee arrive, we'll come back and reopen item 5A. Next on the order of business will be adoption of the minutes from the meeting held on November 20th. You have draft minutes that have been circulated by our secretary. We have Richard has already responded. Just one little correction, but an important correction, which is on page 3, the preliminary approval of proposal ID number 40 carried as a motion to preliminary approve, not a motion to continue, so we'll make that administrative correction.
Which was that?
This would be, so in the minutes, it would be minutes item 7A on page 3.
Union.
In the bold language. Motion to tentatively approve proposal ID number 40. Motion carried 603 to continue discussions. That's actually that was an approval. And I'm quite sure of it because we wrote a letter to the town solicitor telling him that, so.
So it was to tentatively continue?
Where it says continue, we're going to say to approve. The motion carried 603 to approve, preliminary approve instead of continued
Oh,
discussions.
gotcha.
Of course, we'll continue discussions. So with that typo corrected, will there be a motion to approve the minutes as presented by our secretary?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I had a few typos. Did they mention them all?
I only mentioned one, so
Oh.
go ahead.
Okay, so,
We should have approved the. Go ahead.
oh, I gotta put the minutes in front of me, sorry. Let's see. Okay. All right, at 7C, okay. I have on the second sentence, proposal is spelt incorrectly, promosal.
We don't need to vote on typos. I mean,
No.
that's well within your inherent, but, okay, got it.
And then 8A, the last sentence, spelling taxpayers, and buy is B-Y, not B-Y, B-U-Y. 8A,
So I've got one fine vice chair.
the very last one, taxpayers, okay. And then 8A, where it says, starts off with Jeff Karen's name. Status quo is spelt incorrectly.
What page are you on?
I'm on 4,
Jeff's name spelled
8,
incorrectly.
8A still. Starts off. Says
I'd like to move we
down
appoint
towards the
Bob
bottom,
secretary.
under W. Lopes, it says Jeff Karen, it's right over near the margin. And remain stays quo, it says status
Yeah,
quo.
I see it.
Great.
Eighth line from the bottom.
That's about, I think that's all.
Wonderful.
Donna, did you say there was a name misspelled or a name misplaced?
No, I'm just trying to give you where,
Oh,
what
okay,
sentence
where
to
it
look
was.
at.
Eight lines up
Can you
from the
find
bottom.
it? It's,
So 8 lines up.
Yeah,
in the
8
bottom,
lines from the bottom,
thank you.
kinda in the middle.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, the 8th line from the bottom, and then it says remains, should say status quo.
Status quo, that's what I wrote down, okay.
Okay, that was all.
Great.
Other than that.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented with those minor typographical corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
Can I
with,
add one more?
oh, you have another?
Well, if it's
Okay.
really truly
All right.
typographical.
Just
that's-
capital should be AL.
Right, right.
Okay,
So
all right. fine.
Where was that, Nancy?
Third line up from the bottom,
On page 5,
4,
page 4? Third line up from the bottom?
capital with an A. That's all.
I don't mean to do too cranky here, but.
No, I know,
we-
you're right.
We don't have to,
Right,
substantive corrections. The
Okay.
secretary has inherent authority to fix
okay.
name changes,
Yep,
grammar.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, so I think we had a motion from Donna. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Heard a second from Mr. LaCroy. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That's 7-0. Thank you. All right. General administrative items. Our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, right here, Town Hall, Monday, December 18th. We did get confirmation from the school committee chairman, Dr. Larkin, that he will join us for a mini workshop on the labor negotiations. I still have not received really a response to my invitations to the town administrator or the town council. So if they don't appear, that's fine. I was on the town council, and I can give you insight as I can from there. So I'd like to have that, imagine that'd be about half an hour as we plan, since I know you're going to ask about action items. Then,
Oh, they're right in the back.
so, and that will be the last meeting, unless folks call for a special meeting before December 31st. So again, I'd like to really encourage folks, you don't have to have them for that meeting, but before you know it, it will be the end of the year, and we'll be on our December 31st deadline. Other administrative items, I think we're in pretty good shape. We've got the annual 2018 schedule is posted. We have videos rolling. Are there any other administrative items that we need to mention?
I do have a question about the, I believe on the schedule, if I recall, there is a meeting scheduled for Martin Luther King either day or Tuesday, the Tuesday. And is that true, which would have been January 15th? Is it on the Monday or the Tuesday? Or?
We have it on the Monday, and I think we hit President's Day too.
Yeah,
Right?
I was just, and we don't need to at this moment, but I guess we could. Is there the MLK one is tough, at least for me personally, on the holiday, and it just so happens the Tuesday is also. I don't know if we wanted to try to move one of those meetings, move that meeting, or at least maybe, I know we just discussed it, but what would be a good time to address that?
We could do it now, but what I might suggest is it's administrative. Maybe we could do a poll of some fashion, or and then come back on the 20th or 18th. And are you proposing moving to, say, like a Wednesday that week or Thursday that week or something like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
perhaps.
We're also missing 2 here tonight, so I can't be certain, but
Well, I'd like to take that action up to maybe try to move it to a Wednesday or a Thursday of that week. I'd like to take that action. I'd like to, offline, we're allowed to do that much, right?
Just-
We're allowed to
just
schedule
administrative,
meetings,
just
so I'd like to
administrative.
do that, yeah.
We can help with that. Okay.
Is it February?
Are you indifferent on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, Monday and Tuesday are the bad ones. If I can, I haven't checked my calendar yet, I just know that that's an issue. Thank you.
So why don't we suggest this? We can start some of the preliminary admin on that, and then at the next meeting, we'll make sure on this agenda item, we make a decision on the 18th for that January. That way we'll be a whole month out ahead of it. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other admin? All right. So that takes us through 6 and 7. Mr. Clark is not here tonight, so we're going to skip item 8, and we will set that for December 18th as well. Okay. Next up is agenda item 9. Jeff, it's back to you on some further discussion on the Lincoln Casino gaming revenue.
Oh, great, yeah. So, there should be a handout in here, and there it is. I think it's listed as number 8. I don't know why you said agenda item 9, but that's okay. It's got a number 8 on it. And the title of this section for the people at home is Presentation from J. Karen, myself, RE Distribution of Town of Lincoln Casino Gaming Revenue. So this document has a title on it, How Has Lincoln, in quotes, allocated, the word in quotes is allocated, casino gaming revenue, question mark. And I submitted this document, less a typo, to the casino subcommittee, of which we had 2 members tonight, on October 17th. And I decided that given where we're at right now, it might be a good time to share it with this committee as well. So you'll notice the heading says, submitted to CRC on 4 December. And I'll just go through it verbally, but from fiscal year 2009 to 17 inclusive, what I did was I contacted Lincoln, and I got the information I needed to look at the total amount of gaming revenue that they have received, which was $61.7 million. So in that time period, they've received $61.7 million. And of course, my numbers are to the dollar here. And in the same time, it's funded the capital program by the amount of $14.9 million. So I requested the information from Lincoln, and I did the math, and that's what popped out. So the ratio, the capital program fund, is obviously, the percentage is 14.9 million divided by 61.7 million is 24.2%. And similarly, the complement to that is 75.8% is the amount that went into the general fund. There's so I put that out there from a standpoint, and I want people to understand, both at home and on this commission, that at least when I sit here as a commission member and say 25-75 split on this money, that number didn't just come out of anywhere. That came out of what Lincoln's actually doing, okay? And so I obviously rounded off of 24.2 to 25. But that's the basis of this, okay, is what Lincoln's actually doing. And that's independent of what Lincoln says they should do, or what they could do, or if they could do it all over again, okay? Because you also, when you research Lincoln a little bit, you find out that if they could do it all over again, well, there's a reason why they can't do it all over again. It's because the voters won't let them, because they don't want a tax increase. So this is important to understand, what's behind these numbers. So anyway, I want people to understand, both at home and here, that the 25-75, when you hear that number, at least from my mouth, this is the basis for it. If this had come out different, then I probably would have used a different number here. And I'm just trying to present what they do, okay, what they do. Because this was a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago almost now when I presented this. Then there's a line on the page, and below it, it says, Projo, November 16, 2016, RE Lincoln Casino. There's a quote, gaming revenue comprises 8% of the town operating budget, okay? So, this is in Lincoln. So, we hear a lot about, we don't want to use this money for the operating budget. We hear a lot of that. And again, I said this a little earlier. I mean, one aspect of that is we're going to go and hire new people because we can, because we have money. I mean, that's one way to use it for operations. Another way to use it for operations is to lower the taxes. So, the statement here in the Projo on November 16, 2016, which you'll note is, 8 or 9 days after the election when the casino passed, okay, is that quote that it's 8% of the operating budget is quite telling, because what I did was I built a chart below it. And I took our annual, in this chart, I took our annual operating budget of $49 million, and NPT revenue is non-property tax revenue, which is roughly $11 million every year. And then I built in this table a gaming revenue amount of $3 million minimum, $4 million, and $5 million in case it comes over. And I wrote the resultant tax levy in millions, which you would get by offsetting the levy if it was used for operations in the sense of lowering taxes, not in the sense of going out and spending it to increase expenditures. And then I looked at the percent decrease to the tax levy, okay, and you can see those numbers there, 0, minus 8%, minus 11%, minus 13%. But then I looked at the percent of the operating budget overall, okay? So this is the number that Lincoln's talking about. So if you look in the last column, the 8%, okay, and then you travel left, okay, you'd have to get all the way to $4 million. In other words, we use the entire $3 million of money to offset the tax levy and do nothing else with that minimum amount of money. We still don't have enough. We're still under the amount that Lincoln uses for all of their talk in their operational budget. Maybe I wasn't clear on that, but the bottom line is that if we used every penny of the minimum 3 million to offset our tax levy, the result would still be less than what Lincoln's actually doing. So I think that's an important thing to realize, that we are less than that, what their claim is, we're less than that, like in virtually all cases, okay? All cases.
Jeff, as a percent of the town operating budget?
Yeah, the claim is that gambling revenue comprises 8% of the town operating budget in Lincoln. My final column is, well, when do we hit 8%? So you go to the right column, you go down to the third box, 8%.
Yep, got it.
Then you go left and you say, oh, we would need 4 million in gaming revenue.
Right.
Well, they've only guaranteed us 3.
Right.
Okay, so if we use all 3 million, we're at 6%. So we're less than the 8, which they claim, is their number. So my point is like that whole argument or that whole discussion needs to be put in context of, even if we used every penny, we'd only be at 6%. So I'm trying to make that point, okay? So.
Jeff, they were talking tonight, the devil's sort of in the detail about what gets included in capital or isn't included in capital. In your talk with Amand, was he?
I never spoke to Amand, I spoke to his assistant.
Okay. Did they specify like what capital is included in the capital improvement fund versus?
That's some language in the ordinance, which I think is in the big binder that the secretary's binder, not here tonight, but it's somewhere. Yeah, that language I believe is in the ordinance, their ordinance. I didn't get into that with him.
Okay.
I mean, things were mentioned, but I didn't, my gist was to get the data files I needed.
Yeah.
And to understand how they got to this point. I did not, aside from saying, paving is a good thing to always do, or, aside from something like that, I didn't, in the conversation, I don't recall, I didn't give him a specific list. But I believe in one of our documents, in our massive database of documents, is in fact the Lincoln ordinance.
Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong on that, but.
Sorry, Mrs., does the Lincoln school budget factor into this equation at all, or?
No.
It says.
Well, it does at the top.
It's just the town.
Gambling revenue is 8%. Oh, I'm sorry. From my perspective, the town operating budget includes the school. Okay? And that was pretty clear from my conversations and whatnot, so. No, it's like our annual budget, 49 million. That's why I use the 49 million number.
That's great.
So again, the goal was to show the origin of the why, when you hear from my mouth, and I'll make it clear in a few minutes when we get on to the other topics about this 75-25 split, but I want people to understand that the origin of when it comes from my mouth is, well, this is what Lincoln does, so as much as we're gonna say how great Lincoln is, this is what they're doing. And then the other thing is that the arguments that we hear about, oh, we can't use it for operations, well, even if we use every penny of it for operations, we're still less than what Lincoln's doing. So that's the gist of the sheet.
Well, this is really helpful. Any questions for Jeff, either from the public as well, on this?
I don't think they understand. I don't think they have anything to look at.
And it's just, forgive me for sort of
Sure,
taking
sure.
back a little bit, but how much does Lincoln get? Do they get a guaranteed, or do they get a percentage?
Lincoln,
I'm sorry, could you just restate the question just for the microphone?
sure. The question from Ms. Jones was, how much does Lincoln get? / is it a percentage?
Is it the same amount every year, or is it a percentage of, whatever the total?
They get that actually changed it's my understanding, again, and I'm not a full expert in all this, but it's my understanding that when the Tiverton casino goes into effect, that their rate was renegotiated with Tiverton's rate with the state to be consistent. Okay, so for parity. Now, there's going to be a rate of, I think one of them is either 1.25 or 1.5% for like a table game and 1% for a gaming machine, i.e. a slot machine, or vice versa, I forget which is which. But there's certain percentage rates of commission. So if a machine does $1 million, I think that the town cut of it is like 1% or 1.25% or whatever the percentage is. Straight Lincoln, but it's now starting either 6 months ago or starting whenever we go online, I don't know when, but we're going to have the same rate. Lincoln and Tiverton have the same percentage rates for table games and for that. And it's interestingly, I learned that at the yacht club the night they came. That was a question I asked to John Taylor the night they came to the yacht club for that. Remember they did outreach? That was my one question to him after the meeting. So, does that answer your question?
Well, it sort of is, because I just, it's like, I wanted to know, because it's like moving things. If you're getting more money one year because it's a percentage, I just didn't understand.
The rate, the amount received does fluctuate with the amount that is generated. So when we have a discussion of, example, I mean, how that plays in, when we have a discussion of can the casino be open for 24 hours, okay? Well, if they can't, that means the doors are closed, which means the machines aren't running, which is potentially less, each machine is doing less, which means there's less coming in on this. Do you see what I mean? So, yeah.
But they're still guaranteeing us.
Well, there's a guarantee of 3 million. Now, Lincoln doesn't have a guarantee. There's no guaranteed minimum, and that, it's my understanding, goes all the way back to, this all started with the dog track years ago, and it just sort of was, so they don't, so the guarantee was a quote-unquote sweetener that was put into the pot before the November election. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, so.
I just have a quick question. So
Can
when
you
you say
use
we
the
can't
micro-
achieve the
It's okay, I'll restate it this way.
you say we can't achieve cannot achieve the 8% if we use all the money. How does Lincoln do it? Do they have a lower budget or do they have higher revenues?
No, what I'm saying is,
Can you restate just?
okay, so Mr. Jones asked the question that when I said we can't achieve the 8%, well, then how does Lincoln do it? Okay, so their operating budget is higher than ours. Ours is like 49 million. Theirs is maybe 70 million or 80 million or some other number. Their casino is bigger than what we project. They receive, is a number 10 million a year? I don't know what it is, 8 million a year. Okay. Is that clear? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
That was very helpful. All right, well, we'll stay on the casino topic, but we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is 10A. And, I guess I'll hold on to the microphone for this a little bit. At our last meeting, and I think we had all 9 of us at our last meeting, we spent a large amount of time really starting to hack away at no less than 6 formally submitted proposals, and of course, all of us have had lots of other conversations, constituents' feedback, but we've had 6 so far that we've seen. We have not yet seen a proposal from the town council, but we do have 6. And so one of the things that I tried to see if we had agreement on was the sense of the meeting. And one of the things that I asked, and I think I might have asked more than once, is that one theme that there seemed to be agreement on was this concept of voter approval. And so, just sort of in the spirit of being in this preliminary stage, I tried to put down some resolutions here to see if this captures where we are. And again, I know we're about to go into further preliminary voting on some of those specific proposals, but I believe that these resolutions would apply to all of those proposals, and that's where I'm here to suggest and test right now. So I won't read the recitals. Of course, you have them. But it really is 2 resolutions, and the first resolution is that the commission expresses its expectation and belief that no town monies generated from Tiverton Casino can be or should be expended or restricted other than through the ordinary process of a financial town referendum unless and until decided by the voters through changes to the charter. That's the first of 2 resolutions before you. And the second is a further resolution that this commission expresses its preliminary approval to support only those proposed changes which require voter approval at a financial town referendum for the disposition of any and all town monies generated from the Tiverton Casino. I do have a parenthetical here which says, other than funds which would be automatically rebated to the Tiverton taxpayers if such a proposal were approved by the voters. I'd like to turn the microphone over to Richard, who I think would like to comment on that second resolution, or more perhaps other things as well.
Thank you. I have a couple issues, two of them that I would like to express on this phrase in parentheses, other than funds which would be automatically rebated to Tiverton taxpayers if such a proposal was approved by the voters. When we ran, one of our positions was that all money should be controlled by the FTR. And now we come up with this idea, well, no, some of it is automatically going to be rebated. So we're taking the idea of taking that money out of the process. And I understand that we want to get a rebate as part of the lowering of the tax rate, or not the tax rate, but the tax levy. And I think there's a way we can do this, and that would be to place constraints on the budget committee. That we would constrain the budget committee to funding a taxpayer rebate fund. And that rebate fund would be funded by the casino gaming. This way, it would stay right in the FTR. And we would say, okay, whatever budget comes out of the budget committee, it has to have some kind of limit, or it has to have some certain amount of money from the gaming casino that would go to the rebate. And now, once again, all the voters get to vote on it. If a particular a group or petitioner wishes to submit another budget that adjusts those limits, or how much money would be rebated to taxpayers, they could submit their budget. Again, it's always in the FTR process. The voters always have the say in what's going to be, how the casino money is going to be used. It's just what we want to do here is make sure that there's a rebate, that we are lowering. We give the voters, the taxpayers, ample opportunity to lower our tax levy. All right? But we also have to understand that the FTR can be used to raise our taxes. That's all part of the game. If the voters and taxpayers want to raise taxes and forfeit their tax rebate, they can do that. And I don't feel that it's our position to say, no, taxpayers and voters, you can't do that. This is a wide open game as far as I'm concerned. It's a democracy. Then there's another part of this that I don't particularly like, and it's one of the reasons I withdrew my proposal for a tax rate freeze for senior citizens. And that one of the reasons I did remove it was because it would tend to disengage senior citizens from the FTR. If I knew my taxes weren't going to go up, I'm not voting. I'm just not going to vote, right? If you knew that the charter stated that Yeah, you have to have a taxpayer rebate. Maybe 100% of the money that comes from the casino. If that was in the charter, people might say, I don't have to vote, I'm gonna get my rebate check. And I always want voters to have options, as many options as I can, and I want them to stay, not necessarily vigilant on everything that's going on, but they need to stay engaged with us. They need to always, pay attention to what's the budget? What's going on with the FTR? And I think if we took money outside of the FTR and we just put it into a rebate account, that might tend to disengage voters, because they know it's guaranteed. So it's very similar to the senior tax freeze. Seniors would be disengaged. I don't have to worry. My taxes aren't going up. Now, I think everybody, all voters, all taxpayers have to be worried, have to stay engaged. It's all part of the FTR process. And that's why I kind of disagree, I disagree with.
But really, it's the parenthetical, just so we're clear,
Yes,
right?
it's just the
And
parenthetical.
so if,
We shouldn't be taking money outside of the FTR.
but just so I'm clear, and then I'll get to Jeff and others, if we struck the parenthetical.
I'm on
The
board.
two resolutions. Jeff?
First of all, I think Mr. Rahm's points are well taken, and I also think that his mechanism, should the rebate exist, his mechanism for doing it would be by requiring the Budget Committee to, in the docket on the ballot, to automatically have the rebate question for approval is a really good idea, actually. So I'm prepared to simply make a motion to approve this resolution, but striking the parenthetical that Rob just mentioned. Before I make the motion, I'll make the motion, then we have a discussion, I guess, further discussion. Does anyone else have any earth-shattering discussion before I make the motion?
Yeah,
or-
we can have just open discussion. and
Okay.
We'll entertain motion practice, or I'm happy to. I do want to comment, and stop me if this, we're talking about the casino, but there is this other big giant elephant in the room, almost quite literally, and that is that the town council, 2 days from now, and the language is already drafted and it's sitting right there, is proposing to eliminate the Budget Committee and the FTR, at least one of the proposals that they're considering. I'm not stating they've approved that yet, but what I am stating is that we've invited them here since September. They've yet to arrive, and on Wednesday, 2 days from now, they're going to be perhaps voting, for the first time I'm seeing this language, to eliminate the FTR and the Budget Committee. So everything you just said, I completely agree with, but I'm going to keep a close eye on that, because we may want to reconsider where that rebate money would go. And I'd also suggest, too, that the point of this resolution was actually meant to be neutral to the 6 proposals, and so I don't want, and one of the reasons I agree with what you said, and I'd add a third, which is that I think by just removing the reference to the rebate doesn't suggest at this time that we've necessarily favored the rebate proposal over, well, there's actually 2 of them. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that if there is a rebate, that's tantamount to voter approval, just in a different way. So I'm completely okay with that.
Wait, you're okay with what?
The striking of the parenthetical. The concern that I had is my sense of the pledges was that, it was voters decide, and so they can decide through an FTR, or, again, not to put you two on the spot, but the rebate proposals came from the 2 fine people next to me, so I'm trying to capture what I thought was the intent of the commission on that. So what you just described makes perfect sense to me as well. I'm going to be closely watching proposals that would try to eliminate the Budget Committee and the FTR, especially with the deadline coming up.
Well, I'd like to ask, Mr. Chairman, so what's our procedure? If the council, if I'm hearing this correctly, and there's proposals to my left up for discussion in 48 hours to eliminate the Budget Committee and eliminate the FTR, then that is a red flag. And it's a big red flag for the taxpayers of this town. And so my question would be, should we approve this resolution tonight, okay? And should the council start moving down that road, okay? What is our recourse to revisit this language? Is our recourse simple motions to reconsideration? Or to
Oh, right. These resolutions are much like all of our other preliminary voting, which we've started, and we're going to do some more tonight. This is preliminary, so we can
Okay.
certainly change our mind, but the concern that I had is, especially on such a complicated topic, and frankly, I'm concerned that, I'm very pleased that we had 2 members of 5 from the council's casino subcommittee. I guess they're having another subcommittee, you know. I'm a little concerned that there's a lot of talk, and we need to actually start to show some progress on this. So I feel like, and we're going to get to this with a lot of very dense language that Nancy has done a lot of hard work on, taking input, like really start to put some language, and, you know, frankly, start to force ourselves to put your hands up or down on some of these things, and this is a step in that direction.
Mhm, okay.
But it's not binding, as I've said,
Okay.
no binding votes until at least January.
Okay.
Frankly,
I think,
oh,
let me give
I'm sorry.
Richard and then you, if that's
yeah,
okay.
no, it's fine.
Is
No,
this-
go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. I didn't see your
This
hand
was
up.
news to me, that town council.
Me too, I literally just, and I've been begging them to come, oh, I'm sorry.
I gave it to you, I found it over there.
Yeah, but it is on the agenda, that's over there.
Maybe what we need to do is have another resolution. And that would be disallow the town council from changing the town charter without a unanimous decision, without a unanimous vote. Make it much more difficult. They should not be changing the town charter.
They
They
can't.
Well,
can't
they're-
change it, it has to go to
Yeah,
vote.
they're just recommended language, and I don't want to,
Well, are they not discussing deleting the budget committee
well, I
and
haven't.
the FTR?
You have been to a few, some of us have been to a few council meetings and subcommittee meetings. This is, I'm not aware of, maybe that has, I have heard comments from 1 or 2, perhaps just 1 counselor, but I have never before seen a packet of legal language, called it a special meeting in the holiday season, to have an off-night meeting to, but again, this is language that was drafted by the solicitor. I assume, our vice chair gave it to me, and it's sitting over there for public inspection, and it's on the agenda, so.
Oh,
Well, I guess
But-
maybe we need to look into this more and come up with another resolution.
Yeah, I didn't mean, I just wanted you to be aware of that, and I
Right.
fully support the change that you'd like to see here. But I think we can't be naive that there may be some larger issues afoot that we're going to need to address.
Well, but they cannot unilaterally change that. They would have to put that up for a
Doesn't have to be on the
vote.
ballot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just find it absurd that we've got a town council who doesn't know the left hand from their right hand, being in a position where they have created total turmoil in this town. We've turned over the leadership, and suddenly they want to make a major change to the way in which the town operates and manages its finances. I just cannot believe that, this group of people would be so arrogant to take on that kind of a subject. It's just mind-boggling at this point.
And I would like, this is one of these where I would like the minutes to specifically reflect this document that I'm passing around, which is a public document, although nobody's presented it to us, which is their proposed legal language, which strikes in the entirety the Budget Committee and also strikes in the entirety the Financial Town referendum. The proposal, by skimming it here, would allow petitions. First of all, everything goes to the town council, and then it would allow petitions that could only modify the requested budgets by $200,000 and would require signatures of 10% of the electors, and that would otherwise take out the FTR. We'll be talking about the FTR. We almost got there. There might even be an object here tonight. I'll get us back to the casino, but I just want to be as clear as I can be that we will all need to reconsider this, depending on if that council does try to make those changes. You may have a
What
different
would
point of
we
view
have to
and post it.
reconsider?
All of the fine arguments that Richard just made, which I agree to
Yep.
completely. I
Yep.
just want to make sure we remember that assumes, I heard you say Budget Committee and I heard you say FTR
Yeah,
several times.
Yeah,
Oh, right,
I
wanna be
those are
just-
two rocks that I
Correct.
think are part of the whole makeup of this town, the whole, it's not democracy.
I
And I
wouldn't
think-
normally, because they have yet to appear, although we have asked that.
That's part of the
10 times in
problem, right.
September, But when I see red line language, which I'm circulating, I'd like to put in our record, that means that someone's paying an attorney to draft this language, and that's, we don't do that until we've had a preliminary vote, a preliminary sense of the meeting. So, more to follow on that. Jeff, I think you have a quasi-live motion. Would
Yeah.
you like to follow through with that motion?
Yeah, I'm going to follow through it right now,
All right.
if that's okay. So, given the discussion, I'll just wait till the speaking's finished. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to circulate. I'll circulate it so
Mm-hmm.
it's our secretary for the minutes.
So, given that we have the ability to amend, I guess, this resolution as needed, given certain things that could happen, I do agree, on the other hand, or consistent with that, I do agree that this resolution is a good, solid step in the right direction. So, with that, I'd like to move this resolution with the following change to the page, where everything in the final parenthetical, parentheses, other than funds which would automatically be rebated to Tiverton taxpayers, comma, if such a proposal is approved by the voters, close paragraph, period, is stricken, and that period simply is after the word casino, the prior word casino. So I'd like to move that, and I'll be looking for a second on that.
We have a motion, and will there be a second on the motion? With the amendment?
I'll second it.
Great. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Second call? All those in favor with the resolutions as drafted, striking the parenthetical in the second resolution as moved by Jeff and seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm sorry, what was?
No, I was
That was an
for.
aye? Okay, that's 7-0 unanimous. Thank you. And again, we'll, moving on to the next item where we get back to specific proposals, but that resolution was meant to be neutral among the various proposals that we have in front of us. Let's get back to those. So as is our process, we have proposals, they come in, we acknowledge receipt, they get a brief presentation, and then as time permits, we have preliminary discussion, and then as time further permits, we have some preliminary voting, and I want to be clear again, we want to keep things moving and stay efficient, but these are non-binding, these are preliminary, so we want to see if we can show some progress here, but don't feel that this needs to be the be-all, end-all. I'm going to, you may remember, on these 6 things, what we did before is we went to the sponsors and we had them sort of reintroduce them, and then I think I also attempted, and I think Jeff helped to sort of explain the triaging. I don't think we need to redo that since that was just the last meeting.
Yep.
So I guess what I'd like to ask is what's the pleasure of the commission here? You have a few of these proposals, and is there a broad sense of you know, how you'd like to handle these. Do we, you know, the council is apparently already out here drafting language on these. And, you know, maybe I should ask Nancy to comment. We actually, and Nancy, and we talked about this, sort of ran point for trying to assemble these various alternative proposals. Many of them share a lot in common, but there are some changes, and actually try to put them into some draft language. There's a lot of language there, and I don't know how much you want to sort of get into the lawyering of it tonight, but what it does have the benefit of is it does really have you really sit down and sort of see what this might look like on paper. So I was going to basically turn it over to Nancy, but did you want to add anything, Jeff?
Well, I was going to, so I'll let Nancy talk about the document there. One of my, what I'd like to see happen, and I'm only a couple of these proposals, or maybe one of them, but it looks like other ones are by Bill and Nancy and Donna, and another one by Nancy, and two of them by Bill. So I think what we want to do, I would hope that there would be a single motion or multiple motions, it doesn't matter to me, but that the substance of the motions would be to continue all of these, to get them from the open stage to the continue stage on our spreadsheet, not to disapprove and not to approve, and not to just leave them open. So as far as the mechanics go, like, I would hope that we would move to continue all of these, as far as the mechanics go. And we could do that first, and then just let Nancy discuss this stuff. I think at the end of the day, before 10 o'clock hits, we want to, and I'm being facetious with that, but I think we want to get all these clicked over to continue status. And I hope that the commissioners who sponsored these agree that we want to continue all these. So that's my...
I would agree.
My mechanical part of this.
The only issue I might observe on the mechanicals, because the casino work is so sort of unique, and we've gone to the trouble of putting a lot of intellectual horsepower into the drafting of this, on a motion to continue, I guess what I'm saying is that we wouldn't I almost feel like I'd like to get these circulated up to the solicitor, which I don't know that we normally would do on a motion to continue. But maybe that's premature. I don't know. Do you have a?
Well, I guess okay. So let's say we didn't. Let's say we got into this reviewing this document. So I guess it's possible that we would say that nobody seems to support this specific idea. So we could stricken that. We could narrow in, I guess, on something. I don't know if it's too early to do that. And narrow in on something that then could be sent to the solicitor. You're the chairman, so I'll roll with it however you want. I just think that, so would you, I guess we could approve them all, I guess, if that would be the motion to approve them all, but I'm not sure that that's appropriate either at this early stage. But I don't know, your intent, if you feel as chairman the need to, to also get stuff off the solicitor, then I totally understand that.
The only reason I'm making just a slight adjustment is because normally at this stage, remember I've said over and over again that we don't want to put our sponsors on the spot to actually come forward with draft. Some have, which is great, but some we haven't asked to do that. Some have said, we just want you to add duties and responsibilities that include the comp plan. You guys figure it out. That's our job. We'll get to it. But since here, because we have done so much work and because it's such a unique topic and because we know that other bodies are spending all this time working on it, frankly not particularly coordinated with us, I would envision a letter much like the letters we have been sending that says, hey Tony, heads up, we preliminary approved this. Sending a letter like that just says, we haven't preliminarily approved or rejected, but we have had lots of discussion and it remains an open item. That's where my head was at, since we've done so much of this, but maybe I should let you comment
No,
on this.
I think I agree with you. So as I understand it, we're not going to, we've talked about the various proposals out there, and what is before us now tonight is a draft, actual charter draft language, which attempts to incorporate or allow for the incorporation of whichever proposal we end up passing. So I think if we just review how this draft was done, and the consideration that it covers all the options that are out there, some in brackets, because depending on what we vote for. And then if we approve this language, that it does in fact represent all current proposals before the commission, and that's what we could be
So-
approving, and that could then be sent to.
Would you, but are we comfortable, wouldn't Tony just come back and say, well, you gotta tell me which one you're approving? I mean, I'm trying to, are we comfortable sending mutually exclusive?
He's already been apparently drafting things that were never even, yeah.
Okay, so if some of these things are mutually exclusive, that we'd be sending him, so
Well,
it's, I don't want to send him a paradox
I don't
either.
want to steal Nancy's thunder, but for example, there's a whole, actually, I think one of our guests here talked about that we've already gone to the trouble of describing capital items.
Right.
So not all, but many, maybe even a majority, 3 or 4 out of the 6 proposals contemplate a portion of casino gaming revenue going to capital items. Maybe the remainder goes to the FTR, maybe it goes to rebates, maybe it goes to both. So that's a component that has already been drafted. It might be good to keep that floating around until you hear something like, oh, wait a second, paying down debt sounds like a good idea, might not actually be a good idea, and this really kind of keeps things. So I definitely I really don't want to see anything rejected at this stage, especially since we haven't heard in a formal way from the town council, and the deadline hasn't hit yet. So I'd like your idea of continuing, but I'd like to get a sense of the meeting that we could at least circulate them. And look, if Tony doesn't want to review them till they're final, then, that's fine. But,
Okay, so I would have no problem with an approval as long as it included all of the
All.
proposals. I wouldn't want to, at this point, exclude 2 of the 5 ideas and approve only those 3. If we're willing to send, we're willing to send all 5 up as a package, with any modifications we might want to adjust today, I'm fine with that as an approval. That's fine.
And we may
That's
get
what
more.
that's
Okay.
the
more
only thing I'm fine
proposals,
with, too.
Okay, so then it would seem time that Nancy needs to take over, now that I've said my piece.
Aren't I lucky? So, basically, if you start, this represents looking casino gaming revenues as any of the proposals might end up affecting sections in the charter. Or other, well, should I talk about the borrowing? Because that really isn't casino gaming revenue, but,
Yeah, I think the big thing is, a couple of the proposals certainly set up this capital improvement fund.
Correct.
We heard that language from our
Correct.
guests today.
so that's been incorporated, like in section 301. You'll note in red that any place that if there were now a capital improvement fund in existence and now part of the budgeting process, it has now been added to the schedule, for instance, under section 301, that the town treasurer and town clerk have to do their regular budgets and propose any proposed expenditures from the capital improvement fund that they recommend. And then, again, under the scheduling part, the town council would have to now include proposed expenditures from the capital improvement fund. The town administrator would have to do the same as they're submitting their budgets as part of the financial budgeting process. And then you notice on page 3, when you get down to the creation of the ballot, there would now be 3 items shown, dollar amounts appropriated for the school department, dollar amounts appropriated for the municipal budget, and dollar amounts to appropriate from the town budget for the capital improvement fund. And that just moved every other letter down, that's all that represented. So, and I think we all remember that 2 of the proposals call for 25% of the of the casino gaming revenue automatically going into this capital improvement fund. Then you get down to the next section that's impacted, Section 407, the powers and duties of the town council, adding under number 3, that they have to develop and publish such policies, plans, objectives consistent with the long-range plan to provide a basis for planning the municipal non-school budget. And added to their regular is also language that they have to review and improve the municipal budget and expenditures from the capital improvement fund. So again, it's just referencing that this document follows the existence of this fund and that it is referenced throughout. The town administrator, same thing, under 1, that they have to submit, he or she, to the Budget Committee and Town Council, proposed municipal non-school budget of receipts and expenditures, comma, proposed expenditures from the Capital Improvement Fund, and then submit to the Budget Committee the proposed budget, comma, proposed expenditures from the Capital Improvement Fund. And under 16 was added, 16, there used to be a section, Section 1310, Capital Improvement Program, has basically been rewritten, but under the, where is it? I got lost. Under 16, under the, hold on, sorry. The town administrator is now number 16, evaluate requests and make recommendations for expenditures from the capital improvement fund, as opposed to the capital improvement program, which has been changed. Same for town treasurer, establishing and monitoring the capital improvement fund. So the town treasurer would be the one who would set that up and monitor it. And then budget committee, under 4, their duties and responsibilities, to develop a docket that include both resolutions of its own, and B, the preceding year's approved budget, the budget requests of the town administrator, town clerk, town treasurer, and the school department from the coming year, the budget committee's recommendations for such budgets, including the capital improvement fund, and the budget proposals. That puts it also under the sponsorship of the budget committee, has to deal with the capital improvement fund. So section 14 has been changed to, has been reworked. This is a section where there had been some language to make sure that it included all casino gaming revenue. This is where it used to just talk about fees collected by the town. The language as changes fees to revenues collected by the town, and has added in red everything that's now included, except as set forth, and it specifically exempts certain sections that, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, except as set forth in section 1310, that's in brackets because section 1310 has been changed, and we'll get to that. It totally has different language in it. Section 1214B, section 1214C, which happen to be the various proposals for rebate and ways of dealing with casino gaming revenues. So again, depending how it's handled or what vote we end up doing, that language may be altered depending which way we go. All revenues, including but not limited to fees, fines, penalty payments, charges, gifts, donations, grants, casino gaming revenue, and any other miscellaneous sources of revenue collected by town officials or agencies in their official capacity shall be transmitted to the town treasury to be deposited in the general funds of the town, and shall there remain unless and until appropriated through a financial town referendum or other referendum pursuant to section 203. So now the big change, one of the big changes that's happened is under 1310. that used to be just delineate a capital improvement program that would be in accordance with the Chapter 7A of the Town Code, and the town administrator shall be responsible for receiving requests and making recommendations for capital improvements. That language has been stricken in this section, and instead it goes to, it is now under Section 1214, it goes to Section B. So A was the general revenues, now just reads all that revenue language. And B now reads casino gaming revenue. All revenues received from the town as gaming commissions or other revenue from the state arising from Tiverton Casino shall be considered casino gaming revenue. And then you'll see all throughout this, there are numbers in brackets, so it depends again which one we end up deciding to go with. The first bracket is 25% of casino gaming revenue shall automatically be removed from the general funds of the town and transferred to the capital improvement fund pursuant to and subject to the, in brackets, $2,250,000 maximum balance set forth in Section 310. And the remaining casino gaming revenue shall remain in the general funds of the town until first bracket, disposition at a financial town referendum, second bracket, rebated pursuant to Section 1214C. And this, I believe, was Donna's, no, this was Jeff's. For the avoidance of doubt, casino gaming revenue does not include property taxes assessed on Tiverton casino property or revenues the town receives from hotel, meal, or beverage taxes. And then 1214C now reads taxpayer casino rebate. Within 30 days of the end of each calendar quarter, the treasurer shall certify the total amount of casino gaming revenue received in such quarter and cause, and then this is in parentheses because you'll remember there's been a ballot proposal to have just residential taxpayers be able to participate. Residential real property taxpayers who have timely paid their taxes for such quarter to receive rebates of 75%, that's one proposal, or another bracket, 100%, which is another proposal, of such casino gaming revenue. And then in brackets, remaining after funding the capital improvement fund consistent with Section 1214B. And that's in brackets because, as you recall, my proposal was just to rebate 100%. Nothing goes into a capital improvement. Calculated pro rata based on residential real property accounts timely paid for such quarter. The treasurer may charge a reasonable servicing fee for the preparation and delivery of rebate checks. And then D, restricted funds, nothing in Section 1214A, which is the section that delineates what revenues are, shall prohibit an elected body or elected official from obtaining and spending restricted grants, donations, and gifts for the benefit of the town outside of the annual budget or other approval at a financial town referendum, so long as such grants or funds require no associated funds, contributed labor, or other expense from the town. So that just really takes care of restricted grants that are really for that purpose. And then Section 1310, this is now is the new section called the Capital Improvement Fund. A, establishment, there shall be a reserve account known as the Capital Improvement Fund. B, funding. The Capital Improvement Fund shall be funded by and only by, one, in brackets, funds, if any, which are approved as part of budget proposals or by proper resolutions approved by financial town referenda. Two, as contemplated by Section 1214B, 25% of casino gaming revenue, and three, donations, gifts, or contributions if so intended by the donor and which require no associated contribution from the town, provided, however, that the balance of the capital improvement fund may not exceed $2,250,000.
In that,
Yeah.
25% should also be in brackets, because
Yes,
One of the proposals, that could be as much, as I understand, it could be as much as a third. So
Yep.
again, anything in brackets is really meant to be a placeholder. So,
yep,
Bill, I think you have a proposal out there that may call for a third.
okay.
So that's what the brackets are meant to signal.
Yep.
So that's my mistake.
C, appropriations. Funds may not be appropriated from or otherwise transferred from the capital improvement fund unless approved as part of a budget proposal at a financial town referendum for the purpose of capital items. D, qualifying items. The following items qualify as capital items for purposes of the capital improvement fund. And this, so this now includes, all these items would be included as capital improvement fund.
I think it's important to read those.
Yes, I will.
For the camera.
1, new buildings and structures with an expected life of at least 50 years and associated parking lots, driveways, landscaping elements, and associated fixtures and physical plant with an expected life of at least 5 years. 2, with respect to an existing building or structure, replacement or rehabilitation of any major structural or utility system, including roofing, and associated parking lots, driveways, landscaping elements, and associated fixtures and physical plant with an expected life of at least 5 years. 3, physical/tangible professional equipment, office equipment, and furnishings with an expected life of at least 7 years. 4, new construction or rehabilitation or repair of town roads, including paving, pathways, sidewalks, and drainage structures or systems. 5, vehicles and watercraft with an expected life of at least 3 years. 6, payments relating to the permanent closure and retirement of the town landfill. 7, payments, whether as scheduled, minimum, or prepayments, principal or interest, toward any bond, capital leases, or other debt service, so long as the proceeds of such bond, leases, bond/leases/debt were entirely used to finance the purchase of capital items. And there's a footnote to that that explains it would be one way to help draft Mr. Lope's language for designated categories for annual casino gaming income might be to carve this item 7 out as a separate account. E, miscellaneous. Bracket, nothing in this section prohibits the appropriation of capital items from sources other than the capital improvement fund, provided such appropriations are otherwise approved at a financial town referendum. That's a bracket. F, transition. Funds which were previously restricted for the purpose of a capital item by action properly taken before the effectiveness of this section may but need not be transferred into the capital improvement fund if both the town council and the town treasurer jointly certifies the appropriateness of each such transfer, and each transfer is approved as part of a budget proposal or proper resolution at the financial town referendum next occurring after the effectiveness of this section. And there was a footnote to, under 7, payments, prepayments, talking about prepayment on bonds may actually have adverse financial consequences in many cases. Presumably, this would be vetted out in the FTR process so that unwise prepayments are not likely to be proposed to or approved by FTR voters.
So just to jump in, because this document is actually, has Jeff's name and my name on it as well, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff. So, again, there are 6 proposals that have been formally submitted. Proposal number 1 has 75%. I should say, by the way, all proposals have the property tax revenue on the land and on the machinery and on the buildings that goes into the valuation and into the general, just like normal. Okay, I don't I've heard things about ordinances and things like that, but I don't think anybody has suggested otherwise. We're talking about casino gaming revenue here. Okay. Proposal number 1 would take 75% of that, keep it as it is now, and restrict 25% of it into a capital improvement fund. So anytime you see capital improvement fund trickling all the way through the FTR process, leading up to an FTR vote, again, we just took a resolution on this. To our sense of this is, even if it's restricted, it's still going to be subject to a vote. I think it's really important to emphasize that. Proposal number 59 said 100% goes to the general fund. You want to have capital fund, you do that through your restricted accounts just like you do now. The rebate proposals, 72 and 75, 72 said 75% goes to rebate, 25% goes into the capital improvement fund. Proposal number 75 is that 100% goes to rebate. Then we have proposal number 55, which has the third, a third, a third, although, and stop me if I have this wrong, one of the thirds I feel like you could classify going either direction when we talk about tax relief. So wherever you see things in brackets like 25%, that could be 33% or maybe even a different number. Anything in brackets is meant to be a variable. So I want to be really clear on that. And the other observation I'd make, and then maybe I'll let Jeff comment since I was one of the sponsors here, is we did get a suggestion tonight, which I think we need to consider, which is perhaps adding another enumerated item, because we didn't include land specifically, and we did get a suggestion. I heard open space, but to me that says land, and I don't know, maybe we should consider adding that at least as a bracketed item. Since land is considered a capital item.
Yeah.
You can never depreciate it, so I guess that sounds like the ultimate capital item in some sense. So those are my comments. Jeff, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of ground's been covered, and I just wanted to review for the commission members and the people at home who may or may not have seen the last meeting, that at the last meeting, we made a plan to, we decided to discuss these items when we found out the council wasn't coming, and we made a plan to try to put some language together. And I know this has all been said. I'm just kind of repeating it now that people have heard the language. And so it turned out that I provided my input to Nancy, and Rob provided his input to Nancy. And I think Nancy drafted some language that covered the rebate for her and Donna. And then Bill Lopes's got worked in to here as well. So we end up with a document here, I'm just sort of summarizing, we end up with a document that seems to capture the proposals to date, okay? And I just want people to understand how this came to be. So, certain members of us who are quick with the pen sent concepts over. So when, as Rob pointed out, when you see things being voted on and kind of this interlaced with our budget process, a lot of that was me, okay? That was sort of what I gave to Nancy. A lot of the definition of the capital, a lot of that great language for the actual capital improvement fund was Rob's pen. So anyway, that's, I just wanted to cover that, and I don't have a whole lot to say that we haven't already, except for this is a framework, and as pointed out, these brackets, square brackets are meant, some of these things are mutually exclusive, right? I mean, you can't rebate 100% of the money and have a capital fund, so some of these things are mutually exclusive by definition. So if you're sitting at home listening to this, it's important to understand that, there are things in here, we're going to do this or this or this. But now, obviously, can't do both. So that was all I really wanted to put forth, and it kind of ties in with our resolution that we took earlier. We took a vote to consider, we took a vote to approve a resolution that wanted the approvals to be by the voters and within the FTR. And clearly, this structure accomplishes, at some level, that goal. But the key thing is, if I look at my notes from the last meeting, I remember hearing words of flexible. We need to keep things flexible because we don't know our town needs in 10 years. We need to not overly rely on the money, or we want to make sure we don't rely on it in such a way as that we grow the government and then really end up in a pickle. So when you look at a lot of the language from the last couple of sessions when we discussed the casino, I think that this document is a framework that remains flexible. It empowers the current budgeting process. It empowers the budget committee quite a bit. It was also not mutually exclusive to another committee that is completely dedicated and possibly created by the town council to look at capital items. I mean, there's nothing in this that prevents, the town council from creating another committee that's expert in specifically this one topic, which is what are our needs 3 years out, 5 years out, and 10 years out. And they make this golden recommendation that then goes to the budget committee or whatnot. So this framework's not exclusive, and it's hoped that, this framework goes from, in some ways, one extreme to the other, but it's hoped that this can be a framework where ideally we can all come together under such a framework. It's hoped that that can happen, and we have different variations within here to accomplish that. That's my 2 cents at this point.
Okay, so are there any other questions or comments? I do want to try to get to some of the other agenda items tonight. We do have almost 45 minutes left, but before what I will probably suggest is an omnibus motion to continue all 6 matters, or 6 proposals, to continue them, but with the understanding that, as has been our practice, that we'll maybe send this off to...
You mean approve? Approve or continue? They're getting back to
You
it.
said continue, I'm sorry.
I was saying continue earlier. You said you wanted to approve it.
Oh, I misspoke. I meant continue the 6 proposals. Did I just say approve?
Earlier you were saying approve.
You can't approve them all, they're exclusive.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell you.
That's my favorite scene from Fiddler on the Roof. You're right.
All right, our whole discussion.
You can't
All
fight me,
right.
right?
So we're retrenching our discussion from earlier. I thought you wanted them approved so that you could send them to the solicitor.
No, I was going to suggest we continue them, but yet and still I can send this to the town solicitor and let him know these are all live, being under
Okay,
consideration.
that's fine. I'm good either way.
Yeah,
If
if that works for you, that's fine. Or
yeah,
is there a way we could approve this document as representing all the proposals?
Well, that could be in the cover letter. I mean,
Yeah, I
Okay.
would deem that to be
Okay.
inherent, but
Okay.
is there an objection to just in brackets putting something in about land? I don't know, you didn't really have the
I
time to
think that would be a
consider.
good addition, yeah.
Yeah, just
Open
in
space
brackets,
potential, yeah.
And I just want to be clear, did you want me to hard code bill a percentage, or are you satisfied that the placeholders are 25 also
Whether
picked
it's
up?
25 or 33 doesn't,
That isn't final.
Yeah, they're essentially equivalent, really,
Ms. Spock?
for the purposes of our discussion.
It's amazing.
Hi, Sally Black. Thank you for all that hard work, Nancy. The only thing, as you were streaming through it, I don't have it, but when you spoke about grants, I was glad you carved that out, because as you know, the schools work very hard to get grants, and public-private partnership is more popular than ever. It's really wonderful. For example, the Tiverton Prevention Coalition, every 5 years, we get the federal grant, and we're one of the only ones that get it every 5 years. The reason is because we have in-kind. Now, you mentioned no labor. So the reason we get that grant is because we meet once a month, and we have to sign a timesheet for our time. No money is given, it's only our time. So we have in-kind contributions. So if you put the word labor in there, do you know what I mean? Again, that one word that might sway it, that we can't give our in-kind. So that's the only thing I'd like to look at, because it's an amazing grant that we get. And with that money, we get people, speakers to come in, parents, teachers, community. We recently got the clergy to come together and had mothers who had lost children to drugs speak. It's just amazing what goes on. So I'd hate not to get that because of in-kind. Thank you.
Okay, and that would be,
That was on the grant.
yeah, I'll actually, I'll take the bullseye on that, because
Thank you.
and this came up, I think, in our conversations with the treasurer. So this would be, as Nancy introduced it, the section 1214, which, as it sits here today, basically says all money that comes into the town goes to the general fund, and I think that's certainly my belief, that if we didn't touch this charter, that's exactly what would happen to casino gaming revenue. I think somebody's got a proposal to make that crystal clear. But then it builds out on that and sets out a few exceptions. And one of the exceptions, what I think is happening by practice, but isn't really reflected in the charter, is if there is a grant, and we want our officials to go out there and get grants or donations, as long as they're not locking things in without voter approval. This tries to recognize that reality. The issue with the in-kind is that sometimes in-kind can be a substantial, I mean, if it was 3 full-time equivalent employees, that could be a big number. So what I'd like to suggest is we just leave that in brackets for now and continue to noodle on that.
The contributed labor part.
Contributed labor, let's keep
Yeah.
that in brackets, because I want to.
You could just change it to, which will require no associated monetary contribution.
Well, the only concern, and I do a lot of charity work, and the in-kind thing is really important, but the thing is that in-kind labor is real labor. I mean, it's, if you have to go hire a person,
That would be monetary.
that
If you just say, it doesn't cost the town any money. You can put as much time and labor in as you want. If it doesn't cost you any money, that's that.
Well, it depends who it is.
Well,
If it's an employee, it does. If it's a volunteer, it
And then
doesn't.
that would be money.
Okay.
But if the employee is volunteering, then that's not money. So I think maybe you just put monetary contributions. Just an idea.
Okay, let's keep it in brackets, just, but it's a very, we could even try to put a materiality threshold in it too and say, you know, if you have existing staff and, you know, maybe it's the summer time and there's some extra time, you can squeeze it in, that's great, but if it doesn't require the addition, I mean, I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
So then that would be no additional monetary.
Yeah, something like that. So that's one nice thing about putting the words in front of you, is it makes you start to really grapple with that. Okay, well, thank you for that.
Okay, can I just ask,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Nancy, on 1214, why did you strike the word all? You replaced it, I'm on page 6, about the middle. I really like the word all.
That was actually Rob's contribution,
Oh.
so.
If you say.
It's just the black line, it's there, it moved. It's just when you run the comparison. If you go to the second line.
Oh, it's right here, it's all.
Yeah.
It's in the second
it's-
line.
It adds
That's
the
right.
exceptions, and then it leads with the word all.
Oh,
Yeah,
see.
I know, that
Yeah.
that is,
So-
but
I
if
see.
you say in general, I'm not a lawyer.
Well, that's just a title.
If you say in general.
Period.
You could say, well, this thing isn't in general. But if you use the word all, then nothing is excluded unless you say it's excluded.
Aren't you doing the same
No,
thing
it-
by saying it except for,
No.
It's just
comma,
a-
If
all?
you say in general, I say, well, that could be a lot of things, including what you just said right here, but other things. But if you say all, then that does it.
It does.
If you want to take something out of the set of all, you better start listing it.
Yeah, it does exactly what you described. It's just a function of the black line. In general, it's just meant to be a short title. The actual provision starts with, it says, except as set forth in the capital improvement fund, if there is one, the rebate section, if there is one, the restricted grants, and, or if there's a state of emergency, all revenues. So what you're seeing there in general is just a short title. We can come up with a different short title.
Okay.
Nancy?
Fair enough.
Could we, following up on Rob's earlier suggestion, on page 8, could we add an item 8, which would basically include the purchase
open
of open
land?
space or open land, or however we want?
I'd like to make that land, not necessarily open space. I'd like to, because open space is handled as a substat category of land. So if that's okay, Bill?
Yeah.
Can we just word it that way? Thank you.
Yeah, and that would be historical
Or
or
real estate or land or whatever.
beautification or
Yep.
whatever.
I was going to put that.
We have a committee that identifies, you know,
we're
like
gonna put it at
when
the
we
top?
bought Marty's Grave.
Okay.
We didn't, that was bought by the land trust, right? So I think, so it wasn't, that was a private thing, I think.
Uh-huh.
I think it was. Yeah.
Maybe you ought to just change it to real estate in case there's a historical property on it.
That's a good point.
Well, what are you talking about when you say property? You talking about a building?
Yeah, what if,
Well, you don't want to buy more buildings, because then you have to take care of them. We already have that problem.
well, that would be a decision for whoever's gonna make this. Town council?
I don't agree.
Well, and remember, well, as I understand it, the decision's not the town council's, the decision is the voters.
Right.
As proposed by. So, as I understand, I mean, there's this open question of whether the council can move money around, which they seem to do as they see
Right.
fit, but.
Good point, it has to be the voters. But we would allow the voters to purchase from
The capital
the capital funds
Right.
a building that has some historical value.
So you want to put.
Real
something
property,
like
is the answer real
estate,
property?
Real property
Real
with
property.
historical
And it covers
value?
land, it covers everything.
Doesn't have to,
No, I wouldn't,
I would just say.
Just real property?
Real property.
Okay.
I wouldn't think you'd want to get that specific.
Because then we're talking about, that gets into like for example, the Essex Library. You know? I mean, that's,
Which needed $300,000 worth of repairs.
Pardon me?
It would have needed $300,000 worth of repairs.
Yeah, you gotta be careful what you're buying. The voters have to be careful what they're buying. But we would allow them to buy this.
Well, what we have here, again, just by way of review for those watching, so we say you can get new buildings and all the associated the structures, fixtures, landscaping, all that. If we think that the building's gonna last 50 years and all the ancillary items are 5 years, or we say you can renovate, rehab an existing building if you're gonna get at least 5 years out of that rehab. So what this doesn't quite say is that you can go buy an old building. And then that's what I'm getting a sense here that some of you are,
I'm not personally too keen on that, but
yeah.
No, I'm not for it.
All right, so we'll leave it in brackets.
Backwards.
Okay. And, because, right, you could just say real property and associated fixtures and landscaping, and you're done. You could combine one and two. But it does, yeah. Okay, why don't we leave this as a bracketed item?
so what is it going to say as a bracket? I don't see it there now, do
Well,
I?
I was going to suggest be whatever the three of us come up with, but I would add a new item 1. I mean, I'm tempted to collapse them all, but I think there's some benefit, and I think a lot of the people, and again, maybe we wouldn't approve a capital improvement fund, but at least 2 of the proposals, maybe 3 have that. I've heard that from the subcommittee members. Having that specificity that says, yeah, that includes driveways, and that includes,
I agree.
Landscaping. I think that might be a good idea to put
Police
that in.
cars.
So maybe the new item 1, might just say land, and then what we would have to consider is whether the current number 1 that says new buildings and structures really need to say, or currently existing buildings and structures with an expected life. So those of you that are proposing this, you're actually suggesting we could find something that doesn't have an expected life of much. This would be like my house that's sort of falling down always, but we're gonna go in there and we're gonna rehab that thing. And you wanna put that in? Okay,
Yeah, I mean, if it has historical significance to
yeah,
the town.
okay. Is there any objection to the three of us, just, you know, if we can't come up with something that we think fairly reflects in brackets, again, nothing happens here other than it goes to the public, it goes to the solicitor, it comes back to you in a week.
But Bill really does seem to be
Um,
making an emphasis of historical significance.
We'll put in all, just like we did with the proposals, we'll put all known alternatives in brackets, and
Okay.
which some,
Okay.
you know, maybe we don't agree with. Just like some of you may not agree with some of the percentages that are placeholders. Is that
Yep,
okay?
Yep.
Everybody?
yep,
All right. So we'll,
yep.
you'll wear the balls on mostly, but, okay.
Who's on the team? Am I on the team? Am I-
Yeah, well, the three of us
Dr.
put this
McKay?
together.
All right, that's fine.
so-
I just wanted to know.
I mean, Nancy's the coordinator.
When my phone rings, I want to know why, that's all.
Yeah, you might have to help draft something you might not agree with today, but we'll try to fairly represent that's part of it. Okay. May I have,
I just wanted one last comment, if I might. I wanted to just thank Nancy for the tremendous
Well,
job she did.
It
I know
was-
you had some help, but
Yes,
boy, I
yes,
tell you,
yes, yes.
this is great. I think you've captured all the major elements of what we were all proposing.
well,
So thank
there was a
you.
lot of help, frankly, from Rob, and I think, and Jeff, and I think the value of this is it really does help to see in writing what it actually would look like. And
Right.
there's a lot of, the hard work's been done
Yeah.
in terms of,
That's great, thank you.
and frankly, I'm hoping we'll get a little more collaboration from some other colleagues
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
see. I'd like to, I support Jeff's suggestion here. Can we have an omnibus motion to continue all 6 proposals shown on item 10B?
I so move.
Will there be a
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion to continue all 6 proposals as shown on 10B? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. That omnibus motion carries 7-0 on all 6 proposals.
Do you want a motion to transmit something to the attorney, or are you just prepared to do that in the usual fashion?
Yeah, I'm okay with that unless there's an objection heard. We'll-
Okay.
But thank you. Right, so we have a half hour left. I'd like to, you know, we've got a lot of heavy material. Let's keep trucking here. Agenda item 11A, again, this is more preliminary voting. These are items that have come up for presentation and some preliminary discussion. Jeff, a lot of these are yours on 11A, IDs number 4, 5, 8, 12, 16, and 17. What's your pleasure?
My pleasure tonight is to, let me just review, because we've got new proposal. I would like to make a motion for 11A, a motion to continue.
To continue all, same.
Yeah, all of them, correct. I mean, it is 9:35. We've already got, I'm sorry, I'm showing my own weakness here. Are they already to continue? I'm not sure that. Or have they just been left open? I don't think they can be continued. They have to be open, right? Yeah, I'd make the motions to continue on those.
We can do whatever we want, but
They're all categories
I don't
open
think we'll
now.
get an objection to. motion
Yeah,
to continue.
no, I think so. I think that's good to do at this point for these. These are gonna, there's a certain amount of legwork, I think, that wants to get done on this. I think the reason I'm suggesting this is that we came up with last time, and I saw it in the minutes tonight, we discussed maybe, at least my comment was, beefing up better defining the fiscal impact statement, and then trying to trickle that back into contract signing, and then holding the treasurer accountable to, to expenditures that exceed the fiscal impact statement, things like that. That's going to take some drafting, that's going to take some legwork. I think that's a mini drill of what just happened with the casino language, to try to glue all these together in some capacity. And so I think at this point, and that's not done, obviously, I didn't start doing that, and these are all mine mostly, so I think a motion to continue here keeps them on the radar, keeps them moving, and puts me on the spot to eventually trickle that forward.
We may benefit at least on some of these with the little mini workshop we're going to have at the
Yep.
next meeting as
Right.
well. And then you and I might have a slightly different view on how many of these connect to the FTR process, but I might respectfully suggest you take a look at this document that's sitting next to you that we haven't received formally and see how that may impact some of these as well. Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to continue item number 4, proposal ID 4, proposal ID 5, proposal ID 8, proposal ID 12, proposal ID 16, and proposal ID 17.
We have an omnibus motion to continue all IDs under 11A. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Will there be any further discussion or comment? Comments from the audience?
I just like to say, I think that putting a cap on expenditures is really a job for the voters. It's part of the FTR process and not really appropriate for the charter. It's hard to anticipate in future years what kind of increases you would want. You can say, well, for the next year, we think we should have a cap at 10 years from now. So who knows? So I think that caps are probably something that is best handled through the budget process and not through the charter process.
Okay, thank you. And again, I don't force people to microphone, so I'll just attempt to restate. If I get it wrong, then tell me, but we did get a comment from the public that made a suggestion that some of the 6 proposals here many of them would put a cap. And there's been some discussion, too, about whether the cap is actually a hard cap, truly, or it's just a cap in the recommendation process. But in any event, we do have a comment that might, perhaps much like term limits, be a question that's left for the voters better. So I want to make sure that was reflected. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion to continue? This is an omnibus motion. By the way, is it...
Who seconded it?
I did.
Done.
And I should have, I don't want to bore you too much with Robert's rules, but if anybody objects to an omnibus motion, you can force a division of the question, okay? And that's a privilege that any of you, if you want to vote on anything specifically, don't let me feel like, don't let me force you into taking. If you like one of these and not the other 2, you can force a division on that, okay? So having said that, there was no objection to the omnibus motion on this, and I think I saw that pass 7-0. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Next up is item 11B, proposal ID number 34, Donna Cook, require town video recordings of meetings. This has been presented, acknowledged, has had preliminary discussion, and is here for preliminary voting. Donna?
The only thing that I did is I amended it, and I sent it on to Rich, because I don't have a copy of it.
I don't think we've got it in our packet.
I changed town videotaping to filming of meetings, and pretty much changed anything that said video to filming of meetings, just to update it.
You're the sponsor, so would you like to see a vote on this tonight, or what would you like to see?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to.
As drafted?
As the amended draft.
Oh, with the amendment, but
Yeah.
it's substantially the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the amended draft in our package?
No,
I don't
that's,
think
no.
it is.
But I think it's literally just a word choice on what
I did it like
videography means versus filming.
11:24, I just changed it to filming. If you don't feel comfortable, we can just continue.
Oh,
I think conceptually, well, that's up to all of you, but I don't want to get hung up too much on word choice on preliminary stage.
so, just so I understand it then, that right now, the proposal is that, is it all elected? how this one cuts is, this can get very expensive. So right now, it's worded, Donna, that it's all
Oh,
elected.
yes, language to require that the town film meetings of elected officials. I just kind of cut down to that. That's how.
Film is the word now,
Filmed, yeah.
film.
It's just
Filming the meetings, yeah.
How come you changed it from?
Because everyone wanted, there was a consensus that they didn't want the rest of it. It would cost too much money.
No, I'm talking about the change to
Oh,
call it film. That's kind of an old term, isn't it? Nobody films anything.
Technology.
Let the record reflect it. I think you've just been called old by Mr. Rob.
Well, tape kind of means that you could just have like audio tape.
I also had.
Well, record is the word.
Well, wait, hold on. I would have been fine with the way it was, but there was like a big whoop-de-doo about that it needed to have a different wording, because videotape sounded
Videotape.
old.
Yeah.
So, at the last meeting, I asked Andrew, who tapes or films the meetings, and we decided that filming would cover it all. So I just changed it to filming.
So I'm just speaking as one, you know.
What is the
just
best
one
word?
Voter. I don't care what you call it, filming or not, but I will support this however the sponsor would like it. But when this comes up for formal voting, I'll probably amend.
What would you like it to be?
Well, I'm just 1 of 9, but I'd like to see all bodies, but have it just be audio at a minimum. If you want to film the elected bodies, that seems fair enough, but balancing cost and transparency, if we're going to go to the trouble of putting this in the charter, audio tape, or whatever we call,
That's the
cassettes,
problem.
or whatever we call it
Well,
nowadays.
it's a digital record,
The
really.
digital
So,
record,
that's just me.
Wouldn't you just call it video recording or audio recording? I mean, that's filming or taping, doesn't matter the media, you're just gonna video record or you're gonna audio
Oh,
record?
but
or both?
we've gone around on this.
Now, see, you're using different words. It's like, I don't know how many can I put in there.
No one's gonna use film.
I'm just looking for the right word. I think people get what's being asked here.
Well, I have a question about how does the last 2 or 3 words of that read in your statement you read? All elected,
I think we're spending too much time in this, so I'm going to ask that it be continued, and I'll bring in the amended.
okay. The reason I was just bringing that up was simply that, is it the recording of elected bodies or elected individuals? So that becomes an issue too. I mean, if the probate judge sits down here to, work on some documents, do we need to have it recorded or filmed? That's, so the difference between elected bodies and elected individuals, and I didn't know what you wrote.
We don't record that.
Well, I know, I want to make sure the language, though, the last word in that sentence you had there, that's why I brought it up. I want to make sure it does what we want it to do, that's all.
Okay, well,
So bring it
We'll
back to
take a look
amended,
at
and
it.
we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I mean, it does raise this question. Sometimes the courts don't necessarily want to be videotaped, so.
Right,
that's-
right.
All right, do you want to continue?
to be continued, we'll look at the wording.
So I'll second that motion.
Was there, I should know this, there was not a live motion beforehand,
No.
right? Okay. So we have a motion to continue
I second it.
and a second on proposal number 934. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to continue? Any opposed? Okay, motion to continue 7-0. I'd like to at least see if we can't hit 12A and 12B, preliminary discussion of additional review comments. Proposal ID number 26 by Nancy, revised vacancy filled by the highest vote getter, and I don't know if we can take this together, but Mr. Cecil Leonard's proposal number 66, highest vote getter in the last election, should fill vacancies. Those seem
I think they
similar.
were, I think they were the same, and I think I don't see my revision in here, in my packet, but,
It was last week, I think, your revision came out last week.
okay, but I think thank you. No, that
Oh,
was
it's
the
26.
original one. Yeah, it wasn't just the budget committee, I think I changed it to all elected bodies, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's my
I don't
revision
think it's
was,
in our packet.
which I think was what Cecil Leonard also,
Okay.
I think it's the gist of his proposal, so.
Will there be a motion to approve proposals 26 and 66, triage together?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion, questions or comments from the public? Actually, I apologize. This is preliminary discussion only. We're not voting. on
Oh.
these. We're not voting on these.
I'll withdraw that motion.
Boy, I feel like we've talked about this one over and
Yeah, we
over
did.
again. Okay.
Yeah.
No, because we did, but because she put in an amendment, we're
Okay.
talking, see, it says revised.
Yeah,
Okay, understood.
So-
basically is the same as last
Okay,
Cecil.
so we have a withdrawal of the motion and second.
Withdrawal of the motion, second,
Okay,
yeah.
yep, that's fine.
See, I'll go quickly. I think the night you did talk about it a little, Mr. Coulter, you mentioned if nobody was available, then the town council would appoint. Remember you said it that night?
Yeah.
Because what if the next person says, no, I've changed my mind?
Correct.
Then you're
But they
sunk.
have to at least
They go to the
consider
next
that.
one, that's good. And then if that person would say, no, I changed my mind because it's too horrible, whatever, then
Then it goes to
the
town
town
council.
council will appoint. So at least you'll have an
That's the
avenue.
understanding.
Correct.
That's good, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe you should include also that, that whoever's next in line, they assume the position.
I think I did put that in there.
Including the tenure, not the tenure.
I believe I put
But the
that in.
term.
The term.
Right.
Well, how come we
Remaining
don't
term,
have
so
it?
we don't get out of
I
sync.
think I have that in it. Do you have my revision?
No, I got the original one, and it's sparse.
Okay, well, no problem. I think to the sponsors, you've got a sense of the
Sorry, I'll get
commission,
it
so
in there.
you
I
could
think I
even,
did put it in there.
We need the
That's
updates.
language, That they fulfill the duration of the term that's being.
That was vacated, right.
okay, so we won't vote on this, but we will set that on the agenda for preliminary voting on December 18th, those two.
And it's gonna be triaged together?
Uh,
Do we wanna note that also?
I think, any reason not to? Mr. Triage Secretary?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. You could almost make it a consent agenda item, but it'll go quick. All right, we have a few minutes left. Let's talk a little bit, it's preliminary discussion. What do you want to do? Do you want to talk about the planning board? I mean, I know Mr. Hardy's not here, or we have 3 other proposals, or we have commissioner sponsors. What would you like? Donna, what would you like to do?
I think I would like proposal 61 and 61 to
We're just discussing.
continue or discussion.
Yeah, we're just, any of these you want to discuss for 10 minutes?
Okay.
No, we're not discussing
I
it.
want to do F and G.
Okay. Is there any objection to taking F and G out of order? Jeff, is that okay with you?
It's fine with
Which
me.
is
Okay.
49 and
John's been
50.
very patient. These have been on for a while.
Yeah, these have been.
Why
Let's
don't
get
we,
rid of them.
Because, Mr. Hardy's not here, and I suspect that, there's strong consensus for those. Okay, so we're gonna skip over C, D, and E, at least for now, and give Donna the lead on preliminary discussion of proposal ID number 49, which would change the town treasurer to the town treasurer tax collector and make the director of Department of Finance, and proposal ID number 50, which would eliminate the office of the tax collector. Okay?
Okay. I'm going to, after careful thought about and talking to various people, calling some of the towns that are having this practice of sharing, there's no way to see if there's a savings because they've always done it. The only one that would be new that's going to start doing it is North Providence is going to start, have the assessor be the tax collector, and they're saying they're going to save $100,000 a year. Other than that, I don't have anything to go by. The other thing you would need to possibly go forward with this type of a redoing of how you do business in the financial department would be to actually have a study done. You'd have to see how they work, how the work is delineated, how it would go together, would there be a savings? So you'd actually need like a time study, an overview, to look at it. And we haven't had any of that. So I don't think at this juncture that you can really go forward because you don't know what the savings would be or if maybe no savings at all. So at this time, I'm going to make a preliminary move to reject 49, and since 50 goes along with it, to eliminate the Office of Tax Collector, to also preliminarily move to reject 49 and 50.
And I would just add.
We can't vote on it, though.
You have, so we can do that at the next meeting. We'll do it real quick, like Nancy's. And I would just say, too, I also did follow up, and I also met with the tax collector for about 45 minutes and went through sort of the workflows and whatnot. So I'm supportive of Donna's decision there.
Yeah, I think it's a very prudent step, given the lack of data, hard data.
You need the
and
data.
experience.
Yeah.
But I would say this is a really good example of the process working really well. There was a good conceptual idea. The sponsor did a lot of investigation. We kind of kicked the tires on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I think this is exactly how it's supposed to go. So we will set 49 and 50 for preliminary voting. We could even do it as a consent agenda item for December 18th.
So, I'm sorry, how are we going to disposition this?
They're just going to go up for voting next
Yeah, this is
meeting.
discussion only.
This is discussion
on
only.
item 12.
So the next meeting, though, they're going to trickle up to voting status, at which point we know that,
Next meeting, right.
and we know that Donna wants them to be rejected. So, which is fine, it's just a process.
Donna, so we're saying there's uncertainty or unknowns about whether or not we're going to save money, right?
There's no data.
Right.
We haven't done a study here. You'd have to have like a formal study to look at, would we have any savings?
Right.
Would this work well? Would the assessor and tax collector go together, or would it be better to have the treasurer, tax collector? How would all of that work? It would really have to be looked at, and it hasn't been. It might be a good move, but how do we know?
Right.
There's 4 towns out of 39 doing this. However they do it, whether it's tax collector, or whether it's assessor, collector. There's going to now be a 5th. It was just announced. North Providence is going to do tax assessor, collector, and they're going to save $100,000 a year.
Right.
We have not gone through that. So,
My question
Yeah.
is there a way that we could change the charter to allow flexibility so that the town council could decide at some time, such as, just as an example, what if we said in the town, we change the town charter to say, there shall be a tax collection function? We're not saying anything about the structure.
This is the essence of why do we always want things in the charter, because when you put there shall be a tax collector in the charter, then there
Right.
shall be a tax
There
collector.
shall be a tax collector.
And you could put something in there that, could say at the option of the town council, there may be a tax collector.
Right, so we would loosen
Now,
up.
I happen to know that they share, presently, I don't know if that's always been the case, but there are sometimes some work, there's a half FTE shared between the tax assessor's office and the tax collector's office. So that's a pretty good example of why a little bit of that flexibility might be there.
Yeah, so a little loosening of the language might be in order, actually.
All right.
So maybe your motion reject might not pass.
I don't think so. Nice try.
Well,
Okay.
I think presently, the way it's written, if we want to relook at it and write it differently, I'm open to that. I just was not aware that I could do something like that.
Okay.
So there it is.
Well, this is discussion only. This is the process working beautifully. So it'll come back up for preliminary voting, I believe, on the 18th. And you're not locked into anything because it's all at this stage.
Mr. Chairman, do you have anything, I have some questions about what we're doing on the 18th.
Yeah, do you want to hit 12E or do you want to, I was going to give you,
No, I'll leave it alone for now. I was more interested, we're there, if we decide to put it back on, we can put it back on for that day. We just maybe bow away some of the FTR stuff for now, but yeah.
okay,
But,
on the 18th, yep.
but now what is the administrative items, I don't know that we discussed. Is there any guests coming in? Yeah, we did. Mr. Larkin's coming in, and hopefully others, to talk about contract negotiations.
Town council again.
Okay,
Keep inviting them.
They don't want to come.
okay. Okay, so we'll invite the town council. We do have a workshop. We have sort of a chunk of time dedicated to this contract stuff
Yeah,
workshop.
I think it'll be a little longer than the little session you ran today on Lincoln.
No, it's only an hour, yeah.
Well, I'm hoping for half an hour, but,
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of,
Oh, the session on Lincoln, I was thinking back to my tax cap one, my tax levy one. Okay, yes.
oh, I was talking about labor.
Yeah, okay. So,
So it's a catch-all, and I think I'll ask town council again, if, we'll do the little mini conversation, a mini workshop on labor. And we'll stack up preliminary voting and discussion unless anybody has anything. We need to get to Stephen's item that we pushed. He's going to report back on the recall process. And how the other charters in other towns work with that. And I think that's.
okay, and we'll
that's
just,
it.
if we need more content for the agenda, we'll just keep taking these proposals and we'll have filler. So we got through a lot tonight in some ways.
85 proposals, right? Any, not to put you on the spot, but any guess on how many of the 85 we've touched in preliminary discussion, if not voting? Like probably half of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've been pretty good.
We've done good. It's a good thing we started doing it, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see the council here, or at least maybe the president or someone. Or I'll just read about it, I
Do you
guess.
have any sense after their meeting, are they planning to, you don't know?
I heard from the town council president that she's going to make every effort to be here tonight. But I think, like, literally for months, it's been rescheduled. So I think the important thing is, and again, this goes for everybody as they come up in the end of the month. So, sorry. You don't need to have 8 pages of legal language drafted, but if you've got a concept, just a concept, we really want the concepts on the table by the end of this month. So if it's creating an office, eliminating an office, just get the concept out by the end of the month. You don't have to feel, and that goes to anyone.
Which really says to Form A, fill out the form,
Yeah.
whatever the idea is,
Right,
yeah.
Exactly, so, okay. Is there any, are we going to get out 2 minutes early?
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Any objection, any second to that motion?
I'd like to second that motion,
Okay, all right. That's,
because I never get to.
we are adjourned. Thank you.
That's right. You're always